Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of the NXTCC Season 2, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And today marks round 8 of 8. It is the season finale, and all roads have led to this: the battle to be champion in the Prime class, with that being the only championship outstanding to be resolved here in Brazil at the Interlagos circuit. No more formally as the Autódromo José Carlos Pace. This is a circuit that is no stranger to drama when it comes to championship campaigns over its history, and perhaps the most notable one, of course, being the infamous Is That Glock moment, dating back in Formula 1 all the way back to 2007. But as our drivers get ready to go here in the Brazilian sunshine today, it's not going to be about Is That Glock, but it's going to be Is That Matthew Addy who brings home the Prime Championship? Or will it be one of his rivals, despite the statistics? And of course, Matthew Addy having a sizable points advantage as we come on to. Could it be one of his rivals of Alan McCain, Joseph Doble, Doble or Reese Watt that suddenly takes to the top of the stands come the end of tonight. There's all that and more to play out here today. And indeed, with it being the season finale, you can be certain that our drivers will be looking to settle their rivalry, settle their grudges, and leave the dust in their way because they get ready to move on to another season. At the end of the show, of course, we'll tell you a little bit more about what lies in wait after season 2. But as we get ready to get underway with the season finale of the Next Gen Racing Touring Car Championship, we welcome you all to another broadcast, and with it, of course, this is being brought to you live on free media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, if you are a YouTube user, you can go to the official Next Gen Racing YouTube channel, and of course that is Next Gen Racing, a search on youtube.com. Alternatively, if you are a Facebook user, you can go to facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. Or last but not least, if you are a Twitch user, you can always go to twitch.tv/TX141 and tune in there. Now, who is TX141, I hear you ask? Well, allow me to introduce myself. I'm your host and commentator. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And as we get ready to go tonight, let's take you through our scheduled times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinated Time, UTC. In just under what is 18 minutes time, we'll be heading into our final qualifying session of the season. That'll be at 8:30 this evening, where our drivers will be out on circuit for 20 minutes of qualifying, and they'll be looking to set their best possible laps here, with track position being quite critical to success at the Interlagos circuit. After that, we'll make our way into our first of 3 sprint races for today, and all of our races, of course, equal in length, all 13 laps, and you can see that our first race build to start at approximately 10 to 9. After that, we'll take a brief break for approximately 10 minutes before returning to the grid procedure for sprint race number 2, and that'll be at approximately 9:25, and then we take another break, but not without a particular reverse grid draw, and make our way into the final race of the day at approximately 10:05 for sprint race number 3, and by the end of that, we'll bring the final checker flag down and bring the curtain down on what's been a fantastic season, and one to definitely remember, up in the ante from season 1, and well, the story does continue to impress round after round, month after month, and week after week. As we look to our calendar, indeed, as our drivers continue to make their way around in final practice right now, well, let's recap all the stories so far. We started back on the 29th of November in 2022 at the Donington Park circuit in the United Kingdom. There, in a season open at the Grand Prix circuit, not to be forgotten about, it was the rise of many looking to make themselves a big name in the standings, and really it was the rise of Mikey Doble there at the front of the field, but also we saw plenty of names really battling hard up front, including the likes of Daniel Holmer. Then we made our way to round number 2, heading from Britain to Spain for the circuit to Barcelona Catalunya National, and there it was all about the breaking into the opening corners and also the latter half of the circuit where it got tight, technical and twisty through the chicane. We saw many a driver come unstuck with regards to battling, and indeed some drivers had to be told to calm it down a little bit after that round, given the fact we saw so many incidents and quite a few safety cars. But still, those who could prevail, they picked up some major points and carried those points over to the Belgian circuit of Circuit Zolder back on the 13th of December. In round number 3, at the alternate version of the circuit, which saw the final chicane swapped out from its slow variant to a faster one, we saw plenty of battles there and also a few major incidents, particularly in the final race. We'll end up with a safety car or two that broke up the action, but one thing was for certain, the spirit of our drivers was not broken at all, and the battles continued to intensify. And then round number 4 for the first half of the season to conclude, on the 20th of December we made our way to Austria for the Red Bull Ring Grand Prix circuit. That was the first half of the season. We had the Christmas break, of course, and we returned at the start of 2023 on the 3rd of January for the Twinmin Motegi circuit in Japan. The domestic circuit may not be a major feature on the international calendars, but it's a major feature on our calendar for this season, and did it impress indeed, with the fact we saw plenty of battles, particularly in the Pro-Am class, and also in the Pro class, Wayne Douglas making a major name for himself with a number of near-miss battles with Mikey Doble and also Adam Delmont. We then made our way across the Pacific Ocean to the United States of America for round number 6 on the 10th of January, and that was at the Watkins Glen International Circuit, where there we saw on the Cup Classic course, it was all about the tone, the slipstream, and it was effectively NXTCC crossing with NASCAR, if you will, in touring cars, and there we saw many a driver push on, but one big name really started to come to the foray in the Pro-Am class, and going to show just how high he was rising with regards to his performance and pace, and that was Joseph Doble. And last time out in round number 7 on the 17th of January, Joseph Doble stole the headlines at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben by picking up his first 2 wins in his career in the NXTCC. Wasn't quite able to make it a treble, with Reese Watt also making history there, being the first Pro-Am driver to take an overall win in our record books, but indeed a thriller there in Germany, and now we're waiting for the ultimate closure of the season in Brazil at the Interlagos circuit on the 24th of January. But with regards to our calendar, of course, the calendar only makes up one part of the aspect, and the other part of the aspect of this series is the drivers that make it whole. And well, let's take you through our Drivers' Championship standings going into tonight, starting with the overall championship standings. This is, of course, with all of our drivers, whether they are Pro or Prime, all amalgamated together based on a standardised points distribution. And then we can see that at the very top, and having already taken his crown as of last round, Mikey Doble there leading the way on 438 points, unassailable, and really has been the one to beat overall all season, and nobody nobody has been able to come close. Many have kept him honest from round to round and from race to race, but nobody's been quite able to match the consistency or the outright pace of Mikey Doble, and a brilliant drive to his conclusion in terms of his championship crown there for the NDA Honda Racing driver. Meanwhile, in P2, now the fight is on to become the runner-up, with Adam Delmont there, the leader at the moment on 265 points, a margin of 26 points clear from Will Redford there, the fellow NDA Honda Racing driver, chasing after the Excite Racing driver and trying to find a way to get back at him, but as he left it too late, given the run of form that Will Redford's had in recent rounds, where it has not matched up to the first half of his season. Jamie Dory there in P4, what is a further, if we're doing the maths correctly there, a further 56 points behind, and for Jamie Dory, now the challenge is trying to hold off Andrew Pike, Daniel Holmer and Gavin Gardner and Martin Shelley and Wayne Douglas. We stack all the names in there, and it's effectively a six-way fight for P4, given the fact that Jamie Dory right now only 4 points clear of Andrew Pike, and if you take it all the way down to Wayne Douglas there, the delta is only 32 points, and really right now everybody vying to be P4, not quite in the top 3 in the overall championship, but still wanting that accolade to be inside the top 5. Andrew Pike, of course, let's not forget about him. The great run of form, which started off on a difficult starting point at Donington Park, but gradually the Sim Racing Collective driver has brought his way up through the field and has been contesting podiums left, right and centre. Yet to pick up an overall win in terms of a race, but looking to do so tonight, and could he potentially break his duck here? We then see Daniel Holmer there, 174 points, only ahead of Gavin Gardner based on result countback, and the Bright Esports driver there in a close rivalry with Gavin Gardner and the Verano Motorsport driver there as well. Not quite on the run of form of many, given the fact that he stuck to the Audi RS3 throughout, the car that has not been on form all season, but still Gardner giving it everything he can and making that Audi work to his desire. Then Martin Shelley in P8, they're on 162 points. One of our prime drivers early promoted in the season to the pro class and still holding his own inside the top 10, with Wayne Douglas and Chris Daines completing the run of the top 10 there. And Wayne Douglas, of course, the fast charger, has had to calm it down a little bit after a rather emphatic start to his season at the Twin Ring Motegi circuit, but really having to bring it down a notch and still having great racing throughout. And we saw that last time out, of course, at the Oschersleben circuit. Chris Daines there in P10, completing the run at 129 points, at 12 clear of Matthew Addy, best of the rest there, and your Pro-Am overall leader, and a margin of 2 points to Sam Smith, with Nick Clibbins ahead of Reese Watt there, and Reese Watt in P14 on 98 points, 2 clear of Joseph Doble, with Alan McCain only a further 5 points behind. Now what's very interesting, of course, is how you see those three line up here in the overall standings. You'll see shortly it's a little bit different when we look at the individual prime classification, but again, given the fact that the three they're only separated by 7 points and they are 19 points off of Matthew Addy, that goes to show you that really Addy's only one step ahead, and if he misses a step he'll fall back right towards them at the end. Then we have Callum Regarton in P17 ahead of Kieran Sharp, with Michael Leeson and Adam McNally completing the top 20. And as we look outside the top 20, it's Lee Horn in P21 on 51 points, and therefore 15 points clear of Ian Manners, with John Higgins Jr., one of our lowest class blows here in terms of the overall classification, on 34 points. And it's Paul Scott and Isaac Doble to P25. Fernando Colbe in P26 and 8 points, only ahead of Philip Bruber based on result countback, with Davide Favo, Jonathan Collins and Liam Silkstone completing the top 30. And it's the runner Sebastian Bruberg in P31 ahead of Luke Jones based on results, and in Bram G. Clays, John Higgins Sr., Mark Sykes, Jason Morris and Matt Emmons, who are all the drivers who have scored overall points this season. And then yet to score an overall point, Daniel Weston P38, Elwin Sykes P39, Sean Scudder in P40, and then outside the top 40, Stefan Vessels and Trev Anderson to complete our overall Drivers' Championship standings. Meanwhile, coming on to the pro classification by comparison here, when we bring it down to an individual class, we can see Mikey Doble confirmed champion in the pro class as of his performances from Oschersleben last time out. He only needed a nominal number of points and he picked those up immediately, and after race number 1 in Germany he was officially crowned what is champion, and will be crowning him in formality come the end of tonight, of course. And he is ahead of Adam Delmont there by an unassailable margin, and now again falls to Adam Delmont to try and hold off Will Redford to the finish line to be the runner-up. It's looking good for Adam Delmont given the fact the delta there is 38 points, but indeed with 80 points up for grabs today, you can imagine it could swing the other way if Delmont does not have the run he so desires. Daniel Holmer meanwhile in P4, and currently what is there 24 points off of Will Redford, and don't count Daniel Holmer out in terms of trying to hold on to that P3 position come the end of tonight. Again, we're seeing Daniel Holmer continue to grow pace and also continue to improve in terms of his ability to really stick it in there versus the other pro drivers over the course of the season. But he's got close competition from Jamie Dory and Gavin Gardner there, with only 3 points to Jamie Dory and a further 8 points to Gavin Gardner, and the two drivers will also be contesting the top 5 if not higher, with Andrew Pike there in P7 196 points, 5 clear of Martin Shirley, the two of them close rivals going into tonight, and then Sam Smith and Wayne Douglas to complete the top 10. Chris Daines best of rest there in P11 on 158 points, 4 clear of Nick Clibbins, with Michael Lees, Callum Regarton and Kieran Sharp completing the top 15. And it's Adam McNally, Gianni Perrone and John Higgins Jr. who complete our Pro Championship standings. Meanwhile, coming onto the Prime class, this is where we can see it's all to play for at the very top. Matthew Addy leads on 353 points. It is an advantage there of what is 46 points over Alan McCain. But of course, with 80 points up for grabs, all Matthew Addy technically needs to do is score 37 points. It sounds easy when you think there's 25 points for a win, but you can imagine here, it only has to be 2 bad runs, and he could end up falling back into the clutch of the likes of McCain, Doble, and also Reese Watt in the running tonight. But what is even more intriguing, look at that battle for P2. Alan McCain only ahead of Joseph Doble based on result countback, and Reese Watt only 1 point behind. So right now the trio have to work together in a way to try and close up to Matthew Addy, but at the same time they've all got to try and get the upper hand on one another to be P2 and the closest competitor to Matthew Addy come the end of today, and therefore that's what makes this such a thrilling conclusion, in the fact that we have 3 rivals competing for P2 but also trying to reel in the championship leader, who should on paper just have it quite straightforward and only need to pick up a handful of results. Ian Manners there, best of rest in P5, only 3 points clear of Lee Horn. These two have been coming together over the last couple of rounds, and you can imagine it's all going to reach boiling point tonight. With Isaac Doble P7 there, and it should be pointed out that whilst perhaps not on the pace of Joseph Doble, his brother, at the same time, Isaac Doble will continue to improve, and he'll do well to hold on to P7 tonight versus Mark Sykes, Philip Bruberg, and Luke Jones. Paul Scott there, best of rest in P11, 118 points, 7 clear of Jonathan Collins, with Jason Morris, Bernardo Colbe, and Nigel Stock completing the top 15. And it's Davide Favo, Trevor Anderson, Matt Emmons, John Higgins Sr., and Elwin Sykes to P20. And outside the top 20 there, we have Liam Silkstone, Sebastian Bruberg, Daniel Weston, Stefan Vessels, Sean Scudder, and Bram G. Clays. But then coming on to the Teams Championship, of course the Teams Championship wrapped up at the top last time out, as we saw they're going into round number 7. The crown was already awarded to NDA Honda Racing from Watkins Glen in round number 6, for their performances being unassailable. 773 points to the names of Jamie Dory, Mikey Doble, Joseph Doble, and Will Redford. Congratulations to them. And now it comes down to the showdown for P2. Runners up, will it be Excite Racing on 364 points with a margin there of 17 points of Rana Motorsport, or will it be the charging yellow, black and blue cars of Rana Motorsport that will find their way to pip Excite Racing to that runner-up post? Don't count out Next Gen Racing Yellow either. They'll be looking to try and get into the mix, and they have a 29-point advantage over iRace Esports, who've got to be wary of the Sim Racing Collective trying to close the gap to P5 right at the end, with the gap between the two teams only being 13 points. We then have SimTech Racing in P7, only 1 point clear of Bright Esports, so there's a rivalry to conclude there, with 100 points to JW Motorsport, who are 20 clear of Garton McColby Racing in P10, and outside the top 10, best the rest there is HSR, and they are ahead of 52 Silver Crest Racing, Next Gen Racing Blue, and completing our team's championship standings is CSA Racing. Now, as for the manufacturers, of course, Honda took the crown last time out in the Civic with a margin of 1,388 points, which is impossible to beat at this point, and then it does come down to the Hyundai Elantra versus the Hyundai Veloster. The Civics will, of course, take 75 kilograms of success ballast into tonight, with the Elantra N taking 50 kilograms, the Veloster N's taking 25 kilograms, and the Audi RS3 continues to take 0 kilograms, where it's been all the way through the season. But we'll tell you why that may change things up in qualifying very shortly. Now, as for our circuit for today, because that's a lot about the standings, we are here, of course, in Interlagos, Sao Paulo, Brazil, at the Autódromo José Carlos Pace. No more colloquially as Interlagos, in reference to the 2 artificial lakes that this circuit sits between. This is a circuit, as you can see from the map provided us by simracingwiki.com, that twists and turns around the local landscape. But what a two-dimensional image does not show you is just how many significant elevation changes there are over the course of this lap. And with that, and with the fact this is quite a relatively high altitude track in general, that means that this circuit is highly demanding on driver and machine, with it being a test of stamina for the driver and also a test of reliability for the machine. And as our drivers make their way down towards turn number 1, they'll break into the centre S's of turns 1 and 2, bringing their way through the left-right complex before charging through the Curva del Sol of turn number 3, as close as possible to flat out as soon as possible, as they make their way onto the Retroposta straight and head down towards turn number 4. Onto the brakes there, they'll make their way into the downhill braking zone, and off-camber corner that rolls out into turn number 5, and flat out up the hill they'll charge, before making their way into the double right-hander of turn 6 and 7, and then stamping on the anchors into the turn 8 hairpin. Then we see our drivers drop into turn number 9 at Pinaherinio corner, and as they come through the long left-hander, they'll make their way into turn number 10, the second hairpin in sequence, onto the brakes there at the slice corner of turn number 10, before making their way up towards Magulo, which will be as close as possible to flat out through the downhill left-hander, heavily off camber as well. And as they get ready to go onto the brakes of Jinsao corner, it's all about getting the exit there, because that sets our drivers up with the run all the way back to turn number 1 via the kinks of 14 and 15. 15 corners, it sounds simple on paper, but we can assure you it's anything but that. And as we remind you of the rules going into tonight, Firstly, of course, this is a fixed setup series. All setups have been provided by NXTGEN Racing prior to each round for our drivers. Driver classes were finalised as of round number 3. We're not seeing any driver class swaps as of tonight. And in terms of these races, of course, the race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying. The race 2 grid shall be set based on results of race number 1. So the winner of race number 1 starts on pole for race number 2, and we work our way down the order. And the race 3 grid shall be a reverse grid based on results of race number 2, with the reversal position being partial. It's not the full grid, but instead drawn live in the commentary booth here. We'll cut to the commentary booth myself, and I'll do the lottery draw for the finale of the season, where the number will be drawn between 6 and 12, and where will we see that reverse grid pole go. And of course, whichever number is drawn, that position finisher in race number 2 starts on pole, and we work the grid backwards from there. And each driver shall have 2 fast repairs available in each race, and each race shall conclude after either the allotted lap amount of 13 laps or 30 minutes if we do have safety cars, and the race is extended as a result. Now, just talking about safety cars, of course, to remind you that race stewarding is in effect, whereby an independent race director is live stewarding the races for track limit infringements and the deployment of the safety car if there's a major incident. Penalties for track limit infringements shall be distributed as follows. The first 3 warnings, there's no penalty. The 4th warning is a 5-second post-race time penalty. The 5th one that goes up to 10 seconds. And the 6th warning is a drive-through penalty. And all drive-through penalties must be served within 3 laps. And racing incidents, meanwhile, shall be reviewed post-round by a dedicated stewarding body. But with that, that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. I know what you're all here for, and as we return to live pictures, well, we've only got 3 minutes to go before our drivers head into their final qualifying session. And as we look to Matthew Addy here, making his way on through what is turns 14 and 15. Of course, the NXTGEN Racing yellow driver there in the Hyundai Veloster has it all to do today. On paper, as we said earlier, it should be straightforward. He doesn't need to win a single race in the Pro-Am class today. He could afford to finish 4th behind his 3 rivals in all 3 races, and he'll still take home the crown. But of course, the one thing as a racing driver, you never want to settle for 2nd, and Addy would ideally like to take the win in 1 race at least, perhaps race number 1, and then finish on the podium in race number 2, and that would be more than enough to guarantee that he'll have enough points to become uncatchable in race number 3. You don't want to leave it until late, but will he be tactical about it, or will he decide to go all in from the very start and deliver it and get it done before we get to that final race there today, where we're going to be seeing those nerves, of course, get to their highest possible point? Well, as he makes his way down around at the moment, I did observe a little bit of the final practice race sessions as of yesterday, and I can tell you a lot of our drivers, including Addy, were struggling around here, and the reason for that is, of course, with the success balance, that really does compound itself with regards to the layout of this circuit, because you see Addy make his way uphill through the double right at turns 6 and 7, and now into the braking zone for turn 8 and down into the corner at turn number 9. The thing about this circuit is because there are so many elevation changes, when you brake into a downhill braking zone with that extra success balance in the car, and particularly our Hondas such as that being driven by Nick Clemens will feel this most, the car will start to slide away from you. It'll want to understeer. The reverse of that is true when you go uphill or into an uphill braking zone. If you're trying to accelerate uphill, such as coming out of turn number 12, it means that it takes longer for you to accelerate out through the gearbox, where you're trying to move more mass. And conversely, if you're braking uphill, and there are a couple of light uphill braking zones as well, we can imagine that for our drivers, therefore, the braking zone will be shortened, given the fact they are trying to retard more weight in the car. But as we see the iRacing Esports driver here making his way through turn number 3 right now, we look to Jamie Dory here, makes his way onto the start finish straight, and we look to the chat here, and we do say hello to a number of you in the Facebook chat and also the YouTube chat. We say hello in Facebook chat there to Katie Eames, who's all excited to watch the racing today and is feeling good, and also we say hello to Alan Loof there in the YouTube chat, who I do believe is cheering on Ian Manners, as we see Ian Manners here for 52's Little Crest Racing, making his way out of the Curva del Sol at turn number 3. In fact, that's not the Curva del Sol, that is heading out of Magulio and into Junsao corner from turns 11 into 12, and now makes his way uphill there in the number 52 car. And we look forward to seeing how Ian Manners gets on, of course, being one of our prime drivers who has been up there throughout the season, and well, can he end on an all-important high? That will be the challenge for him as he makes his way on around. But as they come charging on through and into the pit lane right now, well, of course, we are only moments away from going into our qualifying session, as we see Mikey Doble making his way through turn number 9, and well, not quite the Audi of Gavin Gardner ahead of him, although that's a throwback livery there to the Audis of old in the 1990s era of BTCC. But we can see here the Audi RS3 of Gavin Gardner from Verano Motorsport. That other Audi was Paul Scott, I do believe, but we see here the number 11 Audi driver here making his way onto the grass because practice has ended, so he's decided to do a little bit of rally cross. But that is his practice session complete, and now we head into qualifying. Now, as the clock begins to tick on down, of course, 20 minutes and everybody out there as soon as possible. The question you may be asking at this point is, what does it take for a good qualifying lap here at Interlagos? Well, there are a number of key components around here, and really, this is not a circuit which focuses on one particular aspect of a car. At Watkins Glen, it was all about straight line speed and being smart with the draft. Last time at Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, it was about direction change and being bold and brave on the brakes. Here, there's a little bit of everything. This circuit is one of those circuits which tests most aspects, if not all, of a given car's performance. We have an extended straight. The run out to turn 12 uphill all the way around to turn 1 is one of the long straights. Also, we have the Retroposta here making our way from turn 3 down towards 4. As we see all of our drivers making the way out and immediately trying to set themselves into some sort of positional order here to give each other space, getting themselves set going into their first flying laps. So we have straights. We also have braking zones. We have plenty of braking zones of different natures. We've got trail braking zones, such as at turn number 4, and also coming up here into turn 6 and 7, where drivers will trail off the brakes into the right-hander. And what we mean by trail braking for the uninitiated is where normally if you use the brakes in the car, you'll normally press on the brake hard to slow the car, then you'll come off the brake and go onto the throttle, whereas trail braking in a racing car is whereby drivers may apply an amount of brake, not necessarily 100%, and they just gradually lift their foot off the brake but keep it applied to a certain degree. That's the trailing part, and then they begin to turn into the corner in order to slow the car but also get the car pointed nicely for the corner. 2 and 2 go together, and that means you get your optimum lap time there, and it's something that's a very powerful aspect in these touring car racing class machines, when the fact they are quite heavy over that nose, but them being front engine front wheel drive, and therefore they want the rear of the car to lift up with a rear with brake bias. They want to slow the car and get the nose pointed as soon as possible, and doing that under braking can be very effective. Now we have trail braking zones, we have heavy braking zones, and also we do have some lift and coast points on the circuit as well. And we also do have on top of that multiple direction change sequences, particularly the run from turn number 6 up to turn number 11, a considerable number of right into left into right combinations, and therefore that's going to catch our drives out, and also the run through the centre S as well, affecting a medium speed chicane, if you will, through turns 1 and 2 and into 3, and it's all about getting the car pointed in the right direction and getting it set up for success, which all contributes to that lap time. So therefore, when we put it all together, you can understand why this is a circuit whereby there's a little bit of everything here for drivers, and of course with it being quite temperate as well, relatively hot conditions here today, well, that's going to catch out some of our drivers as well. And in fact, as we do look at those weather conditions at the moment in terms of what they are, we can see their track temperature in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, 38 degrees centigrade, and an ambient temperature of 27 degrees centigrade, and that is going to be hot for this track surface, and that means we will see tyre degradation and also overheating on those front tyres play a considerable role here. Now, what do we mean by that? Of course, we've talked all the way through the season how certain cars seem to have better tyre degradation statistics than others, and we're looking at the one that arguably is considered to be one of the best so long as the tyres are not overheated, and you have to be quite aggressive with the tyres that overheat, and that is the Honda Civic Type R, being piloted here by Mikey Doble. Meanwhile, at the other end of the spectrum, in terms of that tyre preservation, as we see Daniel Holmer there parked up in the pit lane, well, the Honda NXTGEN is a circuit that can really tear through its tyres very quickly, and therefore that can be a major concern, as Holmer there just parked up and waiting to go. But meanwhile, we can see Andrew Pike also in the NXTGEN making his way around for the Sim Racing Collective. Now coming on down through turn number 11, the Elantra drivers, of course, will therefore have to be a bit concerned in the race that they may find themselves losing that tyre performance in the last, what is 25% of the race with 13 laps. Well, that equates to, if you do it by a division of 4, we're looking around the 9th lap is there where we're going to be seeing the Elantras perhaps fall off the pace. And well, on top of that as well, with that higher track temperature, there is a risk of overheating the tyre very quickly. And when you do that, you have to try and cool the tyre down, but also maintain a degree of race pace, and that can happen to anybody regardless of their car choice. But as we see our drivers making the way across the line here to get the first line laps on the board, well, right now it does look to be Joseph Doble who has set the initial high time of 44.494, but of course there's plenty more drivers yet to put a time in, and when you do have a field of almost 30 drivers taken to the circuit today, well, that does mean that it is going to be open season in terms of that pole lap. And well, as we see there, Luke Jones parking up and letting everybody through. I think he's decided just to wait a moment and give it a breather, and I think letting everybody come down the hill, and he's going to have more traffic coming with the fact that he does have 1 or 2 more cars. And meanwhile, we do see here Michael Lees making his way out of turn number 3, and of course Michael Lees, last time out Oschersleben, one of those drivers involved in a number of incidents over the course of the race, and a major incident down the start-finish straight, and he will be trying to avoid any incidents like that today, as he does briefly fade in and out with his connection there, and hopefully that's not a sign of something else that is to come. But as he makes his way way on through turn number 5 at the moment, while the flyers out of the circuit set in purple sectors. As you see there in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, it is Wayne Douglas making his way down through turn number 11 at the moment. And as he comes roaring up towards turn number 12, 15 minutes still to go. Wayne Douglas not improving there in sector 4 compared to the purple, the best sector set, and somebody else has just gone faster in subsector 3, and also Gavin Garner going the fastest in subsector 4. But those lap times right now all coming together, everybody tripping over one another. Wayne Douglas the fastest of everybody in subsectors 1 and 2, so you can imagine here it's going to be a strong lap, and it may just put him right up there on provisional pole, albeit he's currently a 10th down, and Joseph Doble comes to line. He doesn't use the qualifying line there, which is to stay over to the left to shorten the run, and Wayne Douglas goes provisional pole by 4 tenths on wins of 44.080, but Gavin Garner there strikes back to make it 3 tenths to Delta with 44.372, but Andrew Pike comes on in, and now Mikey Doble, will of course our champion for season 2 in the pro class, makes when drifts his way into turn number 1, and well, there's one thing you can count on with Mikey Doble, it doesn't matter if he's got the championship crown already in his pocket, he wants to win everything, and he's going to be coming out all guns ablaze today with regards to wanting to make it another triplet of wins to end his championship campaign in season 2, and well, what a season it has been for him. But it's another day at the office here, no signs of complacency, he's not taking anything for granted as he makes his way through turn number 4. But as he comes on through, we get ready to ride on board with one of our drivers, and we'll be very shortly looking to what will be Luke Jones, I do believe, is making his way up the hill at the moment in the JW Motorsport Honda Civic Type R. A bit of a slow start to his session, yet to get a time on the board, and it is quite easy to pick up an off track here where the lap will be invalidated, particularly at turn number 4. I did hear a number of drivers complain about the fact they even dip a toe wide at turn 4 and their laps have been invalidated. But as we see here, Jones making his way across the timing line. Well, will he get a lap on the board this time around? No, he does not. But as he makes his way down through turn number 1 and 2, in fact, we won't be quite getting on the board with Luke Jones at the moment. We will be coming back to him a little bit later on. But meanwhile, we will be right on board with very shortly this man as he makes his way on through at turn 13 and into 14, 15 he goes. Wayne Douglas, one of our chargers here, and as he heads towards the timeline, we jump on board, bring the dashboard up in the bottom right corner of your screen, and go for a lap of the Interlagos circuit. Now heading into the braking zone for turn number 1, braking there just after the 50 board and coming all the way down to second gear onto the apex curve of 1, brings the car to left before swinging to the right through turn number 2, full commitment, and then onto the curve for turn number 3, riding that curve, dipping the tyre over it where possible to get a bit of extra rotation, and as he makes his way out of 3, now down the Retro Imposter, it's been a smooth flow through the opening 3 corners, but now it all changes as he breaks downhill. Braking at 100 metre board, about 90 metres in fact. He trails into the apex of turn 4. Notice here using the space, but he goes a bit wide, and Douglas has to abort the lap there, just carrying a bit too much speed, and decides no, that's not the lap for him. And indeed, he brings the lap to a hold and lets drivers come on through, and we won't be riding on board with that lap any further at the moment. But that goes to show you just one small mistake, and it is all being costed dear as a result. But meanwhile, as we see Ian Manners heading out of turn number 3 and up towards 4, we've still got plenty more drivers making their way on around, trying to get laps on the board still. And one of those drivers is Luke Jones, as in fact he makes his way through turns 13, 14, up towards 15. And this time we will ride on board with the Honda Civic Type R driver as he heads to the timeline, and we get a feel for what he's able to achieve here. First time round, it's a valid lap by looks of things. And as he brings it over to the right hand side, it's a 146.497, and he brakes at the 50 board into turn number 1. A lot of oversteer down the rear end under braking, and that's where he's coming off the brake with that rear brake bias. And of course our driver's trying to run as much rear brake bias as possible, but it does cause the rear of the car to lift up, and as he comes through the centre S and through turn number 3, now on the Retro Imposter and down towards turn number 4. Well, a bit of a slippery start to the lap, but continuing to find his composure as he gets ready to go into the left-hander, braking there at the 100 metre board, about 95 metres from corner apex, comes off the brake, second gear, powers out, up shifts to third, nice and early there over the corner, and down through 5, flat out here, and now back uphill through turn number 6. Now heading uphill into the double right here, he'll look to his left-hand side for his brake marker, and braking now about 50 metres from corner apex into turn 6, understeers a little bit, but brings it nicely back together for turn 7, lets the car running out. They can use a bit of the curb there as they make their way into turn number 8, cuts over the apex curve of 8, down into turn number 9, and here it's all about getting tucked in, but the car creeps away from him again, and that's the weight in that Honda catching him out as he makes his way into turn number 10, now over to the left-hand side to brake into the slow hairpin as he comes comes on through over the apex curb, clatters over it, gets on the power nice and early, and now down for 11. Upshifts to third nice and early there to get the car to lift and rotate in. And as he tucks the car out, now breaks his way into turn number 12. Our drivers have been told they've got to keep 2 wheels within the white lines there into Junkow, and he just about does that as he makes his way out of 12, and now up the hill he charges, and this is where we're expecting the Hondas to be really weak in the uphill run, given the car does not have great acceleration by default, and then 75 kilograms will make itself felt there of all places. But as he heads to the line, it's been a bit of a tricky lap to begin with, but he has gradually pulled it together, and Jones comes on across the line. He keeps it in the middle of the road here to slightly shorten the run to the timing line. Does he improve in P23? He does not this time around, but Jones continues to find time out there as he makes his way on down, and we do say hello there to, I believe that is I71 Noose. I believe that may translate into something in terms of a word there, but I must admit my internet leet speak, as they refer to it, the terminology where numbers and letters combine together to make words on the internet. I'm not quite sure of that, but cheering on Bright Esports. And well, speaking of Bright Esports drivers, here is Sebastian Bruberg as he makes his way for 11 and into 12. But it's great to have you there, L71 Noose, in the Twitch chat. As we can see here right now, Bruberg making his way on up the hill and into turn number 1. But as he comes on through in the tow here, and a lot of Honda drivers, of course, opting to try and pick the tow for one another, and you can understand why, for the simple reason that when they haven't got that speed on the straights and they're really impacted in the uphill acceleration zones, they'll take every little bit of less drag on the straightaways that they can get, as we can see him breaking his way down into turn number 1. Now, we have had a question there in the Twitch chat about when does Season 3 start, though. Well, you'll have to stay tuned to the very end of this broadcast to find out about Season 3. We may not just have a date available for you, but we may also be able to unveil the format and also the calendar for Season 3, so stay tuned. That'll be after race number 3 of today. But I can definitely assure you one thing right now, it is going to be an even stronger calendar for Season 3, as if Season 2 wasn't enough. Well, Season 3 I think is going to make many mouths and eyes water with regards to the spectacle that lies ahead of us later on this year. But meanwhile, focusing on the spectacle of now, well, right now, looking at our times, it is Joseph Doble who is the fastest Pro-Am in P4 overall on what is there, a 44.16, and he is only 4.5 tenths off of Wayne Douglas's overall pro pole position pole lap currently. As we see there, Doble parking up on the inside and letting the Sim Racing collective car of Andrew Pike go on through, as our drivers make the way on down and around through turn number 9 and up towards 10, where you can see here how Doble right now really finding his feet and finding his pace. And that has been the story of Joseph Doble ever since the Christmas break. We saw at the Red Bull Ring that he was starting to find a sense of rhythm and speed, but since coming back after the Christmas break, well, he has just been absolutely delivering those times, where it's been qualifying, the race, or both. He's always brought it together, and that is what's led to him jumping from what was a runner for a top 5 in the Pro-Am class to somebody who's competing for P2 as a minimum, if not also an outside chance of bringing home that win in the Pro-Am Championship come the end of this season. And he really has been the man to beat in qualifying, as we see Matthew Addy there making his way up towards turn number 1, and Matthew Addy right now 7 tenths off the overall pole lap, and in the class pole lap there he is 2.5 tenths off of Joseph Doble, but I don't think he'll mind that too much, because the key thing for him is he's going to be out qualifying Alan McCain, and the biggest name right now who is not up there in terms of the Pro-Am class, he's down in what is effectively P9. It is this man, Reese Watt, as he comes on down the hill, and for what it is not working out right now in terms of that Honda really starting to feel the pinch with regards to the lap time. Now I say that, but of course we see Joseph Doble's up there at the very top of the Pro-Am class in the Honda Civic Type R as well, so I think for Joseph Doble it's all coming together. Meanwhile for Reese Watt, he's still trying to find that secret recipe to get the lap together compared to his rival, but right now P9 on the Pro-Am grid and P18 overall, as we see one of our pros jumping up ahead. That was Sam Smith, I do believe, jumping up to P13. Well, it's all got to come together in the final 6 minutes of this qualifying session, otherwise Reese Watt may have to do it the hard way if he wants to have an opportunity to be battling for P2 in the Pro-Am Championship come race number 1 all the way through the remainder of today. But it's definitely not the way he wants to start his day. But as he makes his way out to turn 11 into 12, well, we do look from our Honda driver to one of our Audi drivers, and who better to jump on board with than Gavin Gardner as he makes his way through turns 13, 14 and up towards 15 he goes, and we jump inside the Audi RS3 as he takes us around for a lap in the Audi Sport Customer Racing Verano Motorsport machine. Now, of course, the Audi no slouch when it comes to the straights, and as he heads into turn number 1, you'll see him there braking just after the 50 board, coming all the the way down to third gear. Many drivers will use second gear, but the Audi optimised for higher gears. And as he comes down through turn 2 into 3, using all the real estate there in regards to the road as he makes his way through 3 and up towards 4. And this is where we expect the Audis to be strong in the Retro Foster run as he makes his way down towards turn number 4, up to 6th gear already, all the way up to 133 miles an hour and braking there about 90 metres into turn 4, coming on through in 4th gear. How's out here and keeps 2 wheels within the white lines. He makes his way through 5 and up the hill he goes towards turn number 6. Now this is where the Audi converts. He may struggle a little bit as we start to get into the more technical section where it doesn't quite want to react as well on that front end, but as he comes through turn 6 into 7 and hits both apex curbs absolutely perfectly as he now brakes into turn number 8. Down from 4th into 3rd, stays in 3rd, doesn't drop to 2nd to avoid front end wheel spin as he makes his way down through turn number 9. This is where many drivers will be dropping to 2nd in the other machinery, but the Audi has to stay high, and as he heads into turn number 10 over to left, onto the brakes, drops down to 3rd, doesn't go to 2nd, so that way he can plant the throttle nice and early, make his way out of 10, through 11 he goes up to 4th early as he turns on in and gets ready to go up into 5th now in the downhill run. Onto Jinsao at turn number 12 here, breaking down from 5th into 4th, and now he's got to get on that power as soon as possible, does it perfectly there, and now builds his way up the hill in the run to the start finish straight as he makes his way up into 5th gear very shortly, 100 miles an hour through the kink of turn number 14, heading towards turn number 15 here, and I think he feels as though he's on an optimum lap. Norris Hayes had a short run coming out of the corner and heads to the timeline on the left hand side. It's to shorten that run as much as possible. He comes on through P6, he went on to lap in and he's moved all the way out to P3. There is Gavin Garner with a 43.932, one of only 3 drivers to set a 43 in this qualifying session, and Gavin Garner definitely showing right now that he is not going to give up at the very end of the season when the Audi seems to have really been bruised, battered and made to work as hard as possible. He's going to get even more time out of it here, and who can blame him because he is stuck by his decision to run this car over season 2, and well, whilst many have not made the Audi work, he has definitely been the one to make it work and give him those great results over the course of his championship campaign. But as time wears on here, you'll notice just how close the times are. From the top 3, we've only got 2 tenths being the distance between Wayne Douglas in the lead in this qualifying session and Gavin Garner in P3, and then look to Andrew Pike in P4, and you'll see there that from P4 all the way down to P17 in the form of Nigel Stock is 1 second that separates a total of 14 drivers of a mixture of Pro and Pro-Am classification. But meanwhile, speaking of Pro-Ams, Alan McCain has just jumped ahead of Matthew Addy there on a 44.271 by a margin of what was almost 1.5 tenths there, and well, with that McCain will be happy now that he's ahead of the championship leader on that 4th row of the grid if it finishes as they are. But of course the change for what will be Alan McCain is that it's all well and good being on the same row as your championship rival, but you need to be higher, and of course Joseph Doble right now is making them both look stationary by comparison when he's 1 row ahead of them, and he does have Daniel Holmer between them as well, the pro driver there from Bright Esports. And speaking of Daniel Holmer, here he is, he makes his way on down through turn number 3 at the moment with 2 minutes still to go, and well, with a little bit of time still left on the clock and overtime available to our drivers as well. Now it's really coming down to crunch time, and well, speaking of drivers, will not be getting in any more laps. We hear that Jonathan Collins is in the pit lane, and indeed he is there. He is our P28 driver. He'll be the last driver on the grid effectively, given the fact that he will not be able to set another time, and just being beaten to the post there for P27 by Bernardo Colbe, who makes his way through turn number 5 and up the hill towards 6-7 he goes as he heads into the double right-hander. But with a bit more time, he still wants to improve here, does Colbe, and to be fair, he's been one of those prams. He hasn't quite been on the pace in qualifying, but you normally do see him pick his way through the field in the races. Albeit he's been a few bumps and scrapes in a couple of moments where I think he's been called to the stewards room. I think most of our drivers, if not all of them, been called to the stewards room at some point this season. That is the nature of touring car racing, albeit they're not trying to get their elbows out too much, but we do see a few bumpers and whatnot come off the cars. But as he makes his way into turn at number 10, can he end his season on a high? Of course, having joined it midway through the season and had a very nice run to begin with, and it has continued that way. And can he pick up perhaps another top 5 in class today? I think he'd be very pleased if he's able to add one more of those to his tally. But as he comes through Jinsao, meanwhile, we look to Nick Clivens here, last of the top 10 runners at the moment overall, as he makes his way down through 1 and into 2. A minute left to go for the iRacing Esports driver here, and as he comes out to turn in number 3, well, iRacing Esports, how the fortunes have changed over the course of this season. And I'm going to go out there and say, if we had to give an award for the unluckiest team with the unluckiest set of drivers this season, iRacing Esports would be up there by such a margin, and that is not to besmirch them. And the first half of this season, particularly Clibbens, had a lot of pace, and he has shown it all the way through the second half of the season as well. But every time he put the car up there inside the top 6, he ended up in a major incident in race number 1 that sent it all the way to the back of the grid, and he had to spend the other 2 races fighting his way back up through the order. In the second half of the season, he's had a bit less bad luck, although some of that bad luck has reared its ugly head once again, but he has been showing just how much pace he has, and well, his colleagues as well also trying to do the same. But Clibbens really the one today. He'll be looking to try and end on the ultimate high for him, which is potentially another podium thrown in there, can even perhaps creep in a win. But speaking of things being crept in now, our drivers are trying to creep in their final laps as the checker flag comes out, and everyone bringing their way over to the left-hand side, the right-hand side from a camera perspective. They think they're on a golden lap, a fast one, but as we see Lee Horn crossing the line there, that is his qualifying session done and dusted. Improves to a 44.723. That'll be good enough for P16 overall, P6 in the prime classification. Meanwhile, we've got some more drivers making the way on around, I do believe at the moment, including Alan McCain here as he heads to the timeline. And McCain slightly improved at the starter lap. I don't think he's going to improve in the second half of the lap here, or will he as he crosses the line? P7 at the moment, a 44.233. He does improve, but it's not enough to change position, so I believe it will be Joseph Doble who takes that final pole position in the prime classification. But as Wayne Douglas comes on through here, well, he has been stood clear and through the test of time today with Mikey Doble a 10th down but in the pit lane. But as Wayne Douglas comes to the line, I think it will be pole position for the Hyundai Veloster driver. He crosses a 43.726 is his time. He sticks with that time. He does not improve, and Wayne Douglas there, I think, has set the bar too high for anybody else to jump over it. As meanwhile, Gavin Garner comes on through, and we have confirmation that Joseph Doble will be your prime pole sitter in P5 overall for the final round of the season. But what can Gavin Garner do here? He can't do anything as he makes his way into the pit lane, but still a P3 start for him. He'll be happy with that. That'll set him up well into turn number 1. We've got a couple more drivers making the way up the hill, still on laps here, given the length of the lap time being 1 3/4 of a minute, or around 1 minute 44. The best lap's 1 minute 43s, of course. And as he makes his way to the line, can Andrew Pike potentially jump up onto that front row? No, he decides to make his way on in. Meanwhile, Jamie Dory parks up there. Joseph Doble comes to the line, and does he improve even further, Doble? Well, he parks it up there. I do not think he does, and I don't think he needs to either. P5 on the grid will be enough for him to start on pole. So it's Wayne Douglas overall pole and pro pole, and then it's Joseph Doble who takes prime pole in P5 in the overall standings. But a close qualifying session, a top 16 separated by only a second in the end, one of the closest it's been all season. And now we get ready to go to the grid for race number 1 shortly. But indeed, that's just qualifying, and I think we may see a few dramatic moments in the run to turn 1 in race number 1. And could we see any drivers cut their way through the field, particularly our plucky primes who'll be looking from P15 downwards there to try and put some pros between themselves and their rivals. Isaac Doble there leading that group from P15 and P5 in the prime class as a result. But meanwhile, the driver who's really suffered in qualifying, Reese Watt there with a P20 start. That's not the way he wanted to start his day. But as qualifying is complete, our drivers are making their way back out onto the grid now for race number 1, and this is how they line up for our first race of the day. So in round number 8 of Season 2 at the NXTCC Race 1 here at Interlagos, it is Wayne Douglas who takes pole position for NXTGEN Racing Yellow by only 1/10 over NDA Honda Racing's Mikey Doble. Gavin Gardner and Andrew Pite line up on the second row with the Verano Motorsport driver ahead of the Sim Racing Collective driver, and then we have a prime pole sitter Joseph Doble at P5 at NDA Honda Racing, joined on the third row by Bright Esports' Daniel Holmer. Then P7, P8 is the prime of Alan McCain for iRacing Esports ahead of the pro at Jamie Dory for NDA Honda Racing, with the top 10 completed by Matthew Addy for NXTGEN Racing Yellow and Nick Clibbens for iRacing Esports. The 6th row goes to Ian Manners and Michael Leese, followed up on the 7th row by Adam Delmont and Sam Smith. Then we have on the 8th row Isaac Doble and Lee Horn, the 2 primes, and it's primes from here on out with Sebastian Brue and Nigel Stock on the 9th row, Paul Scott and Reese Watt on the 10th row completing your run to P20. Then P21 on the 11th row, it's Philip Bruber from Bright Esports, joined by Liam Silkstone there from Excite Racing. On row 12, Luke Jones and Elwin Sykes, and then on our last 2 rows, it's Bernardo Colbe ahead of Jonathan, well, in fact, it's Davide Favo, we should say, ahead of Mark Sykes on row 13, and our final row, it's Bernardo Colbe ahead of Jonathan Collins, the last of our grid positions there going to the NXTGEN Racing Blue driver. But as we clear the grid from the screen, they're almost all set now, and we are just awaiting the light procedure very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. But the question will be, of course, can Wayne Douglas, who starts on pole, he's on the outside into turn number 1, can he outdrag Mikey Doble to the braking zone, or will Mikey Doble use the stronger brakes of that Honda, albeit on cold tyres, to fire it up the inside? Of course, it's not just about the front two, it's also about Matthew Addy. You can see that on the left-hand side, starting back in what is P9. Can he find his way to steer clear of danger and make sure to keep Alan McCain and Joseph Doble in clear sight, and therefore continue that run to the championship ground? Or will Joseph Doble start in P5, break away and potentially capitalise? Well, the green process is complete. We await the lights. 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for race number 1 here in Brazil as our drivers get underway and make the way down towards turn number 1. Now in the charge here, Wayne Douglas looking to hold on as Garen Garner gets a flyer of a start by comparison. And as they make the way onto the brakes into left-hander, well, everybody there safely through so far. It does look so a couple moves being made a bit further back in the Pro-Am class, but no major theatrics at the moment as everybody quite sensitive to the start of this race. And I think everybody wanting just to keep it smart and keep it safe. Although Luke Jones has dropped a long way back with an off track in the run out of turn 2. We'll take a look back at that in a brief moment, but meanwhile Wayne Douglas gets a great start. Mikey Doble meanwhile trying to come up the inside here versus Garen Garner. Garner on the outside there into turn number 4, and as they make the way downhill, Garner immediately on the counter attack here as we're hearing there's a bit of an instant further back for Elwin Sykes, but meanwhile the leaders here continue to press on up towards turn 6. Further back Nick Clevens here trying to hold off Michael Lees, who looks around the outside into 6-7. He can't find his way on through it. You can see Sebastian Bruberg there losing 1 place to Rees Watt at the start, and Rees Watt getting 3 places off the line, all prime positions as well. So JW Motorsport driver here going all in as they make the way under braking into turn number 8 for the first time of asking. But as they come into the first of the 2 hairpins in sequence here, now it's all about who's got their tyres up to temperature and who is feeling bold and confident on the brakes as they make the way on around. And we look to Sam Smith a little bit further ahead there, the pro driver who's caught between Ian Manners and Isaac Doble. Meanwhile Rees Watt cuts it right up the inside there of what is Lee Horn, trying to make some ground as we reload the overlay there, and as they make the way down through 11 and into 12, where you can see Rees Watt there with that move to the inside, lose that versus Sebastian Bruberg, and after gaining some ground now loses a place as they make the way through Junsao. But as they come up the hill, we look to the front of the field, and after 1 lap Wayne Douglas heads to the timeline. We've still got another 12 to go, but he leads the field as follows. So on to lap number 2, they make their way, and the next gen racing yellow driver Douglas leads ahead of Doble, followed by Gardner, Pike, then Joseph Doble in P5 there, followed up by Daniel Holman P6. Behind them it's Alan McCain 7, followed by Dory, Addy, Clibbins and Adam Delmont as they go 3 wide under braking here into turn number 1. But it looks so Delmont there holding off the 3 wide charge from Michael Lees and Ian Manners. But right now Delmont best to rest, but he tries to make his way around the outside of Clibbins here as they come through turn number 3, rolling their way on through and up towards the next corner they go. In the long charge they roar, and as they make the way on down here, we can definitely see how our drivers right now doing everything in their power to battle for position. But Delmont there just simply inching himself ahead into the braking zone, the battle of the Hondas, and he gets it done as they now make the way up towards turn number 6-7. But as they come roaring on through, we look back up to the front for a brief moment here. You can see that Mikey Doble under pressure here from Garen Gardner, and the Audi driver, after being back passed by Doble through turn number 4, not showing any signs of hesitating. He wants to go back for the move. But meanwhile, Rees Watt here going a bit wide at turn 6 and 7, and Mark Sykes getting the move done there. But I think Mark Sykes might have been retaking the place of a Rees Watt, who has now lost a place in class. He's back down to P20, but P11 now in the Pram class. And Rees Watt definitely, after a flying start to this race, has lost out considerably on this second lap as Paul Scott there looking up the inside of fellow Audi driver Nigel Stock. But as they make the way through 10 and down into 11 here, neither driver finding the upper hand on the other at the moment as they make the way into 12. Coming down into Jinsao at this point in time. Of course, the 2 Audi drivers here will need to be cognizant of the fact they've got 2 Hondas behind them that will both be looking to get in that tow and salvate the prospect of that slipstream as they head up through turn 13 and 14. All the Audis will now start to pull away once again as they head on through and on to another lap. But as they come charging across that timeline, we ride on board here with Paul Scott, who finds himself in the Audi train behind Stock, and then Philip Bruberg is a further 1.2 seconds up the road as they make the way in towards turn number 1. The overspeed building here for the next gen racing blue driver Willie Sizer up on the inside. He thinks about it there. He does feel a bit more confident on the brakes. You can see a little bit of a wobble from Stock by comparison, but to be fair, Nigel Stock carrying all the speed he needs as they make the way through the centre S and now onto the Retta Aposta once again. But Scott so close, within 1.5 tenths as they make the way onto the straight, and Stock immediately goes defensive here. Ball's got to be made to go round the outside if he wants it. This is in the battle for P8 in the prime class. Onto the brakes they go side by side into 4, and Will Scott's going to try and carry it all the way around the outside. He's getting a bit of the cold shoulder there as they make the way through, but just giving enough room to play with. But in the end is held at bay as they now make the way up towards turns 6 and 7. Meanwhile, a bit further up the road here, we can see that Adam Delmont continues to charge after Nick Clibbins, and Clibbins has got back ahead of Delmont off camera. Only moments to go in the run out of 5 and up towards 6. So these two right now tripping over one another's toes and not finding a way to clear one another and go hunting after Matthew Addy. And I think for Matthew Addy right now, P3 in the prime class, P9 overall, I won't think he'll be complaining about that. I think he'll be more than happy. Just a very happily run at P3, all contented in class and P9 overall. And no, that's enough to start his day off on an ultimate positive. But as our drivers come on down and through 11 and in towards 12 once again, we do now start to get the opportunity to take a look back at some of the incidents that happened at the start of the race. And well, one of the incidents, of course, was Luke Jones having an off-track right from the outset. And what exactly happened to Luke Jones? This is in the run down through turns 1 and 2, and as he came down through 2, went a little bit deep there, trying to give the space to drivers on the inside, and in the end found the grass and kept the car on the grass for awareness of safety of drivers making the one through before he returned. So a difficult start for Luke Jones as we return to live pitch. In fact, there was a bit of an incident straight after that, but we cut back to live pitch for a brief moment, and Michael Lees here, the iRacing driver, trying to go on the offensive versus Clibbins and Delmont as they make the way down through turns 1 and 2, and as they come through, there's a run wide there from what is Clibbins as they come on through the long left-hander, and as they make the way down the retro Apostle straight. This is constituting everybody up, and Clibbins there being given a bit of an elbow out by Manners by looks things. He tried to find his way back into the sequence. Manners there now on the inside versus Wiz Lees into turn 4, but Lees to outbreak him. Meanwhile, Isaac Doble there battling for position versus Clibbins. Well, he doesn't need to fight this as Isaac Doble unless he wants to go hunting after Manners, and to be fair to him, the prime driver right now wants to do everything he can for Next Gen Racing Yellow as they make the way up the hill, and to prove that it's not just Mikey Doble and Joseph Doble get the spotlight. And as he comes through turns 6 and 7, the third member of the Doble family here, definitely putting his stake in the ground and battling for it left, right and centre. As you can see behind there, Lee Horn trying to look around the outside, trying to outwit Doble, but right now it looks so Doble very aware of what's going on behind and staying ahead for the time being. Meanwhile, up the front of the field, we have got a change of leader here. Mikey Doble takes the lead of this race, and behind it is a long group now that's all come back together. It was calm, but the storm has erupted here. We're only 4 laps in, going on to the 5th lap shortly, and meanwhile Andrew Pike and Gavin Garner exchange. Too wide coming through turn number 12, and Pike there goes a little bit wide round the outside of the Sim Racing Collective drive. I think there's a bit of a knock between the two of them, albeit I don't think there's any love lost between them as they make the way through 14 up towards 15. But meanwhile, as they come roaring onto the start-finish straight, we look to the front of the field. It's side by side between Wayne Douglas and Mikey Doble. Doble on the inside, Douglas on the left of your picture. Into turn 1 they go. It'll be a battle on the brakes here. The Honda driver hasn't got the speed, but he's got the brakes, and as they make the way onto lead foot pedal, they come through 1 into 2, and as they roll the way down through the right-hander, you can see that Doble's got back ahead. Meanwhile, Daniel Holman out to P4 with Andrew Pike losing out, and meanwhile it is prime leader Joseph Doble here who continues to hold it to P5, and now he becomes the cork in the bottle for Andrew Pike with Alan McCain just behind us. Meanwhile, Alan McCain looking for the move here versus Pike, and on the right of your pitch there is the second place prime driver. He wants to clear what is their Pike so he can go hunting after the win in the prime class. Of course, for Alan McCain, it's not just about being Matthew Addy, but he also wants to be that runner up in terms of the prime standings as a minimum. And as they make the way up the hill, of course, McCain and Which Joseph Doble level on points going into tonight in P2, P3, and now both of them really trying to square off here. But McCain needs to find a way to clear Jamie Dory, who's found a way up the inside, and Dory there trying to get his nose in, but there's a bit of contact there, I believe, with Andrew Pike, and as they make the way out to 9, well, right now Jamie Dory there having to back off and give the space back with the contact and how it all erupted, but fair racing between them as they make the way into turn number 10. Of course, it's Torren Cole. We're going to see a few knocks and scrapes here as they make the way through 10 and into 11. Now coming on down through Magulio corner and up towards Junsal they go once again, and Dory right now he's had a taster, and I think he wants a little bit more of the apple in terms of battling to be inside that top 5 as he makes his way on through turn number 12, top 5 of the pro class, and also overall as they head on up the hill. But meanwhile, as they make the way on through, well, we will take a look back very shortly at what happened to cause that huge exchange for the lead of the race. But before we do that, we take a look back at what exactly happened at the start of the race between Jonathan Collins and Liam Silkstone in the run out to turn 3 and on to 4. We're looking at Collins here, Silkstone on his right from our perspective, and Collins in a bit of a scrape there with Liam Silkstone and being pulled across, T-boned across, and then further back there was contact with what looked to be the CSA racing machine of Elwin Sykes. So Elwin Sykes just minding his own business and being caught up in all of it. Very unfortunate for Elwin Sykes, not the way he wanted to start off his day and having to be towed to the pits alongside Jonathan Collins, and that is where he currently is, both of them in fact in the pit lane at the moment. But as we return to live pictures here, where you can see meanwhile Nigel Stock battling with Paul Scott. It's the battle of the Audi drivers once again, the pair of them going into turn number 4 very shortly. Paul Scott on the right of your picture, Stock on the left of your picture. It's the battle for P16, P8 in the prime class here as they make the way on through. Stock goes a bit wide, then Paul Scott will take the position by default as Nigel Stock will have to slow to give up the time that he's theoretically gained by running wide there. But as they make the way on up the hill, meanwhile into turn 6 they go, and further up the road, well, Alan McCain right now trying to pressure after Andrew Pike, but he's got Jamie Dory for company, as meanwhile Joseph Doble and Daniel Holmer just ahead of them continue to fight for P4 as the bright esports driver here, the Pro, looking to try and bring on a Pro podium versus Gavin Gunn in front of him. Well, he's got Brian behind him right now, who really wants to try and take a bite out the back of that Elantra end, but as they make the way up towards turn number 12, onto the brakes they go once again. You can see here all the drivers really right now trying to do everything they can to stay as close as possible and find the next opportunity as we move into the second half of this race shortly, because as they go on to lap number 7, there won't be too many more laps to go. We'll start to have that number really come down, but as they roar their way onto the next lap, well, they're all in sequence here. But Mikey Doble with that straight line speed deficit in the NDA Honda Racing Civic Type R, under pressure from Wayne Douglas there, and meanwhile Gavin Garner makes it 3 wide, but he can't quite follow it all the way through there, and the door shuts in the middle. There's contact between Mikey Doble and Wayne Douglas, and with that Gavin Garner goes round. He looks to try and do it all the way around the outside, but in the end he only finds the grass and has to back out, but he's really going for it. It's Gavin Garner. Now look at Daniel Holmer, who tries to go too wide here coming onto the Retro Aposta. It's going to be Holmer on the outside in the run to the next corner. Gavin Garner tucking in behind there as they all try to thread the needle and put themselves in the right position. Garner defensive versus Holmer, meanwhile Douglas defends versus Doble, and well, as they make the way through 4 and into 5, if that's the taste of what is lap number 7, I hate to imagine the next time they come around into turn number 1 on lap number 8 how it will play out then, because every time it gets closer and closer. And meanwhile Holmer there looking to defend versus what is Joseph Doble, who again really proving to be an annoying thorn in his side in trying to find a way to get P4 overall as they make the way on through. And there's Andrew Pike meanwhile having to fend off Alan McCain. The prime drivers in this group are really salivating at the prospect here of fighting for overall top 5, and they want to piece the action in amongst the pros. But meanwhile further back behind, you see at the back of this group Matthew Addy there. Well, all he's got to do by comparison is sit, wait and watch this battle, because right now unless Ian Manners gets close, who's 2.5 seconds behind him in P11, separated by Adam Delmont from Matthew Addy, all we need to think about is this P3 is more than enough to give him a good run into race number 2, and he could seal the deal come the end of the second race today. But as he makes his way up the hill here, of course he won't settle for second in this race. He'll want to pick up extra places if he can, but of course right now we are lighting the powder keg and waiting for when it will explode in terms of those battles. Meanwhile further back here Sebastian Gruber battling with Isaac Doble in the hunt for what is P6 in the prime class, P14 overall. Gruber the attacker, Isaac Doble the defender, as they make the way across the line, and Sebastian Gruber there goes for the switch back into 1 as he makes the dummy on the outside to inside. Onto the brakes, the bright esports driver goes, but he can't go out brake. Isaac Doble, there's contact between them, and Isaac Doble slides there, but he catches the car just in time, and will the two of them come together, and Gruber gets on through. But Isaac Doble there, I think that will be arguing that that was not a fair pass from his perspective, but he'll get his head down and push on. That's the thing, of course, about Isaac Doble. When it goes wrong, he just carries on. He doesn't show any signs of being perturbed by it. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, looking from one Doble family member to another, we see Wayne Douglas here trying to hold off Mikey Doble as they make the way into turn 6 and 7. Through the double right they go again as they make the way on through, with this battle just continuing to stay close as we ride on board the gearbox here of the NXTGEN Racing Yellow Machine, getting a faceful of the grille there of what is the Honda Civic Type R behind us. In fact, we do get the whole grille plate going through the camera there for a brief moment, but as they make the way through 9 and up towards 10, you see that Gavin Garner continue to stay close as they make the way on through 10 and up towards 11, 12 or down, we should say. They go through the 2 corners as he comes through 11 now. Wayne Douglas definitely knowing that one mistake will be the difference between him leading coming out John South corner and him being behind as they make the way into turn number 12 here. Upwards they roll, and as they make the way through the left hand, and now it's going to be that long run once again. And well, I hate to imagine what can Mikey Doble do in terms of finding his way on through. He's got to beat Douglas on the brakes, but he's also got to get that run through turn 2 into 3, and if he can't nail it, and then Wayne Douglas is extremely likely to be right back there in the run to turn number 4, and then it becomes a drag race. And that's the one thing that Honda Civic Type R just cannot do, is out-drag its opponents to the next braking zone. But as they come down through 1, this time it's a bit more settled. Everybody, I think, cooling it down for a couple of laps here and waiting for the climax in the final couple of laps. But you can see here we have a top 9 separated by only 2.5 seconds from where's your leader Wayne Douglas to Matthew Addy. It is no more than 2.5 seconds, and as they come on down, what is the retro poster here? Wayne Douglas going defensive again. Mikey Doble being made to hang on the inside here, and he's got to cover off Gavin Garner, who's coming strong, and Garner there being given the shoulder out on the outside as they make the way through 4 and into 5. Meanwhile, further back, Joseph Doble here once again trying to get past Daniel Holmer. Really strong through turn number 4 is Joseph Doble, but as he heads onto the brakes, look at Andrew Pike trying to go all the way round as they make the way through 6, 7. Pike has to back out for a brief moment, and as he heads towards the braking zone for turn number 8 right now, we ride on board the Sim Racing Collective drivers. We briefly lose him, but he rematerializes from the ether, and as he comes down through 9 right now, having to back out once again as it's only really one wide through Peronio corner as he now makes his way into 10. And of course, every time he's confounded by his rival there, as we do continue to have a little bit of connection issue there for Andrew Pike. So we'll jump off the onboard for a moment. Well, the number 99 driver here definitely right now having to be wary of Alan McCain behind, and Alan McCain of course would love to clear Pike and go hunting after Joseph Doble for the class win here today in race number 1. But meanwhile, Jamie Dury goes wide, and it's a knock to the wall there coming out to turn number 12, and the NDA Honda Racing driver there has fallen. He's still going, but he's fallen away from that top 9 pack. It's now a top 8 pack. As you can see there, going on past him is Adam Delmont as they make the way in towards turn number 1. And as they come charging towards the next corner, meanwhile, looking back up there, Mikey Doble, this time under pressure from Gavin Gardner, not putting the pressure onto Wayne Douglas, but further back, one driver, of course, who had a very difficult qualifying session, but he is gradually trying to pick his way up through the field. P13 at the moment in the Prime class, which is where he started in class, but into P21 overall, and battling with Bernardo Colbe for position in the Prime class. Luke Jones there on the inside as they head into turn number 1. A classic move there from the Honda driver on his Honda rival, gets it done, makes his way down through turn number 2. A beautiful move there from the JW Motorsport driver, and now can he hold on in the run down towards turn number 4? Well, Colby's going to be looking to get the draft, and Jones immediately hooks the car to the left hand side here to make sure Colby does not have the slipstream in the run down the Retro Aposta, but it is going to be side by side, and Jones sacrificing a bit of speed, shaving it off in that tight exit line out of 3. Colby's going to go around the outside. Jones gives him the space, 2 wide here coming on through, a bit of a contact between the two of them on the doors, and as they make the way through 5 and up towards turn 6, well, right now Colby's still there with a nose in, but not quite close enough as they head on through the right hander, and Colby's still there, still trying to get his nose in. He does so as Jones goes a little bit deep. There's contact between the two of them there, and I think Jones will not be too pleased with that. I think Colby there just going a little bit deep off the corner at turn number 7, and the Garden Colby Racing driver would have got it done even without the contact there, but I think that has just put a bit of a damper on what Jones might have been enjoying as close racing, but still great racing between the two of them all the way up to that point as the number 96 driver now fends off at Luke Jones for the time being. But meanwhile, having been towed to the pits, I'm hearing is Michael Lease after a difficult start to his day. It's all going a little bit further in terms of being sour, but meanwhile the next gen racing yellow driver here of Lee Horn at P13 overall, and what is P5 at the moment in the Prime class, trying to hold on to the final position inside the Prime top 5. But the change for him is he has got behind him Sebastian Bruberger, what we should really say on the left of him right now from our perspective, the right of him from his perspective. As a small bit of contact there as Horn tries to squeeze Bruberger on the outside and restrict his racing line, but as they come down through 2, gives him just enough room, but a brief touch between the two of them there as they come up through turn number 3, rolling the way out on the moment, and now with 3 laps to go, including the lap they're on, with it being a lap number 11, time is ticking down here in this first race of the day. And Horn continuing to really dig and entrench himself now into that defensive run into turn number 4. And Brubo trying to cut back on him as they make the way out of 4 and up towards 5. Goes a little wide there, but he can carry away with it as he makes his way through turn number 5 and up towards 6. And Horn having to go defensive ever more in the run uphill as he comes to the right hands of 6 and 7. Brubeck here really setting Horn up to have to dig into every corner and try to hold an inside line. But the problem with that is the more you do it, the more speed you take out of the car, and also the more susceptible you leave yourself to a cutback move. But you can see there, Brewer trying to find the space. Sebastian Brewer looking on the inside at turn number 9, but Lee Horn putting on the corner apex and saying, no, this is only a one wide zone, thank you very much, as they make the way through turn at number 10, and the gap opens up to 6/10 for the time being. But meanwhile, looking from 2 drivers battling to be inside the Pro top 5 to 1 driver right now battling for the win of the Pro class. You can see here the Next Gen Racing yellow driver Wayne Douglas in the 66 machine continuing on as our leader for the moment. But right now that gap could not be closer between himself, Mikey Doble, Gavin Gardner and Daniel Holmer as the top 4 there make the way across the timeline. All of them now separating, looking for their place in the group, as meanwhile Andrew Pike has got ahead of Joseph Doble. Has he in the rear of the picture? Well, Mikey Doble there defending versus what is Gavin Gardner, as Gardner looks outside to inside, but Gardner's still there on the inside and Gardner gets it hooked up. Meanwhile Joseph Doble they're battling with Andrew Pike, and Pike gets ahead of Joseph Doble in the run on through, and down towards turn number 2 they go. But the battle continues at the front of this group, with Gavin Gardner right now trying to come on through and hold on to the position. Meanwhile Daniel Holmer also coming up the outside versus Mikey Doble, again a little tap there from the championship leader in the Pro class, and Holmer backs out quite sensibly and waits the next opportunity. Now as they make the way through turn 5 and up towards 6, well, they're all lined astern at the moment, but again, given we are on the penultimate lap, I can imagine now tempers might be starting to fray a little bit, as meanwhile Ian Manners continues to try and find his way up into the overall top 10. He's currently P11 overall, what is P4 in the Pro class, battling with Jamie Dury, the Pro driver in front of him. We'll want that overall top 10 just to say that he's picked up another accolade. It always feels good when you're in the Pro class and you get an overall top 10. That means a lot to our Pro drivers, I can definitely tell you that. It means quite a bit to our Pros, but to our Primes, it's like a gold medal to them when they're inside that top 10. And as Ian Manners makes his way through turn number 10 and down towards 11 right now, pushing on, we get confirmation there from Elwin Sykes in the YouTube chat saying that busy panel beating my car, hopefully have her ready for race number 2. We look forward to that, Elwin. We hope to see you back out in the CSA Racing Audi, indeed a car that absolutely stands out its livery for all the right reasons. But meanwhile, speaking of standing out here, well, right now the battle that stands out the most is Gavin Gardner in P2 for Honor Motorsport, trying to hold of Mikey Doble. The Audi RS3 of Gardner having all the legs on the straights and those traction zones, but not having the brakes or the handling by comparison. And as they make the way into turn number 1, the white flag is out. We are on to the final lap as they make the way on down. And meanwhile, as we just cut away from Ian Manners, he's actually found his way past Jamie Dory for P10 overall, with Jamie Dory having some damage on the car that may be compromising his lines. But we stay here with the battle inside what is there, the top 7, with Alan McCain at the back of this group and pushing on as we ride on board here with the iRacing esports driver. And that is the gap there between himself and Joseph Doble at 4.5 tenths, and that is the gap to a class win. That could be the difference between him being second in class come the end of the standings, even potentially the winner of the class, albeit they're going to have to go a long way now with Matthew Addy just behind them, 2 seconds back. But the point being right now for McCain, it's personal versus Doble, because both of them here, Joseph Doble in front, both of them wanting to take that runner-up slot as a minimum in the prime class. But meanwhile, Gavin Gardner holding off Mikey Doble here as they come for 8 and down into 9, and you can see Gardner there really having to tiptoe out of 9 as he almost understeers to the grass. I think there was a bit of contact from what was the front end of Doble as they go into turn number 10. Mikey Doble tries to go all the way round, but that's going to be about power here as they come into 11. Do they go too wide? Down through the left-hander. This is tricky here. Gardner has to give the space, and Mikey Doble there. It's going to be a battle on the brakes into Jinsal corner. Mikey Doble on the inside, Gardner on the outside. They give one another just enough room. It's now a drag race to the finish line. With all this battling, when it does mean is Wayne Douglas starts to break away, but Gavin Gardner starts to get his nose ahead. But meanwhile, as we look to your race leader as he comes through the final king, well, it's been a hard-fought battle, but he will take the win here in race number 1 today. Wayne Douglas is your winner by 2 seconds as he crosses the line, and it is Gavin Gardner who just pitched Mikey Doble to P2, Mikey Doble P3, Daniel Holmer P4, Andrew Pike P5, and Joseph Doble picks up another win in the Prime class, P6 overall, ahead of Alan McCain P7. And to complete the Prime podium, it is Matthew Addy ahead of Adam Delmont, and Ian Manners finishes your overall top 10. P4 in the Prime class ahead of Beth rest of the rest, Jamie Dory and Nick Clemens there, P12. We've still got more drivers coming on through. Lee Horn, P13 ahead of Sebastian Bruberg, followed by Isaac Doble, who just beat Reese Watt to P7 in class, P15 overall, and then Paul Scott there, P17 ahead of Nigel Stott, the two Audi drivers all the way to the end, with Bernardo Colbe at P19 ahead of Luke Jones, who I think will just be looking to him as they make the way on past there, saying we had a great battle as they make the way down through 3 and into 4. Sam Smith outside the top 20, P21 in a difficult start to his day. Mark Sykes P22, and then it'll be Philip Bruberg and Davide Favo who complete the finishers on what is the lead lap. No, in fact, we've also got Liam Silkstone, my apologies. Davide Favo there, P24, and Liam Silkstone with that difficult start, of course, coming out of turn number 3 with that contact with Jonathan Collins. Well, he comes across the line here for Excite Racing, P25, the last of our finishers on the lead lap with the retirees of Michael Lees, Jonathan Collins and Elwin Sykes. But with that in mind, what a fantastic race to start off today. And will Wayne Douglas, your winner in the end, but not by a huge margin, and I think he'll be grateful that Gardner and Mikey Doble in the end were fighting one another tooth and nail on that final lap, and it gave him the room, because I would imagine that if he had not been given that opportunity, it could have been a freeway drag race to the line, with that Audi of Gavin Gardner definitely showing just how strong it is. But it's not just about the car, it's also about the driver, and the Briton of Gardner continuing to impress and making sure that it's not just the Hyundais and Hondas that have their day as he comes on through at turn at number 14 there, as they make the way to the pit entry now. Joseph Doble as well with a great one to add another win to his tally. But of course, for both him and Alan McCain, it is this man and Matthew Addy who, picking up P3, is well on course to be bringing home the Pram Championship. If not in race number 2, then it should be a formality in race number 3. But with that, as they all head into the pits, let's give you those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. So after race number 1 today, the first 13 laps turned in anger under race conditions. It is Wayne Douglas who takes the win in the end by 2 seconds over Gavin Gardner. Next Gen Racing at yellow driver there, holding off the charge of the Verano Motorsport driver and also NDA Honda Racing's Mikey Doble, and they complete your pro and overall podium. With Bright Esports' Daniel Holmer, also a huge shout for the win today, and also looking to get stuck right in there, and then we can imagine plenty more from him in race number 2. Andrew Pyatt P5 there for the Sim Racing Collective, not quite able to shake off the primes for a good amount of time and only getting past them towards the end of the race, and therefore perhaps scuppering his chances at finishing on the podium, but still 2 more races for him as well. And then we come to our 3 primes of Joseph Doble P6 at NDA Honda Racing with a superb result there, another win in his bank account, with Alan McCain there, P2 in class, P7 overall for iRacing Esports, and then Matthew Addy for Next Gen Racing Yellow completing the top 3 Pro-Am drivers there, and that P8 settling in nicely. Adam Delmont P9 ahead of Ian Manners, the 52 Zillaba Crest Racing driver in the end, creeping into the top 10, ahead of Jamie Dory, Best the Rest P11, and then it's Nick Clemens, Lee Horn, Sebastian Bruberg and Isaac Doble completing your overall top 15, with Reese Watt, the JW Motorsport driver, having a difficult race to start off. A lot of ground being made early on, but losing that ground on the second lap and having to reset from there, but he'll be hoping for a better race number 2, when Next Gen Racing Blues Paul Scott just behind them, P17, ahead of Nigel Stock in the battle of the Audis, and then outside the top 18. You can see Bernardo Colbe 19th ahead of Luke Jones there, and then outside the top 20, Sam Smith P21 ahead of Mark Sykes, and then Philip Bruberg, Davide Favo, Liam Silkstone, and what was Michael Lees, Jonathan Collins, and Elwin Sykes completing your standings. But we should point out that Michael Lees, Jonathan Collins, and Elwin Sykes all finishing at multiple laps down due to separate retirements, and Liam Silkstone was your last finisher on the lead lap of this race in P25. But that's only race number 1 for today, ladies and gentlemen. And well, we'll be back in approximately 5 to 7 minutes time for the build up to race number 2. It has gone the way of Wayne Douglas in the Pro class and Joseph Doble in the Pro class, but there's still plenty of points to play for between our drivers, and who will come out on top in the second race of today, we'll find out in a short while. Until then, don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to race number 2 of the NXTCC Season 2 season finale. Of course, it is round 8 of 8 here today at the Autódromo José Carlos Pace. And what a race number 1 we have had and to behold, with the fact that we saw battling up and down the field. It wasn't just at the very front with our pros, but also our primes further down the field, really trying to gain an advantage of one another. But of course, only a certain number of drivers were able to bring home the winning scores in race number 1. And as our drivers get set to go once again, it was a difficult race for some, but not for Joseph Doble, the NDA Honda Racing driver, who brought home the win in what was race number 1 in the Prime class. And you can imagine now, with only 3 minutes until we go into our second race of the day, he'll be looking to make it 2 out of 2 and set himself up for at least the success of being a runner-up in the Prime classification in P2, if not trying to find a way to steal away that championship crown from Matthew Addy. But of course, with race number 1 complete and Matthew Addy finishing in P2, in P3 in class we should say, it does mean that the advantage that he has continues to hold the test of the time. And can Joseph Doble make it another win and therefore leave it all up to the hands of fate? And that's the thing as a driver, of course, when you are trying to chase after the championship win, you just have to keep your head down, do what you can do, and then everything else that's outside of your control, it's up to the racing gods, of course. But right now, Matthew Addy, if things continue as they are, will be your Prime champion for Season 2 of the NXTCC. But meanwhile, in the Pro class, we again got to see Andrew Pike in the Sim Racing Collective, the Mr. Fish machine, doing a fantastic job in battling for the win and indeed the podium in the Pro class. Not able to quite get onto the podium in race number 1, but still he'll be looking to carry that momentum forward with his car lined up on the grid on the 3rd row. And what can the 99 driver do at this time around, as we are only 2 minutes away? And that will be the question he's asking himself as well, given the fact that he had a great start to the race, found himself boggled back towards the Primes, however, caught up behind the likes of what was Joseph Doble and also Alan McCain. But once he cleared them, he was on the leading pace in the Pro class, but just not quite able to make those moves right at the end when they mattered most. And as we look from here to your Pro winner in race number 1 of Wayne Douglas, the next-gen Racing yellow driver there, definitely started off the day on a strong note, albeit not without close battling with Mikey Doble and also Gavin Gardner, and also an outside shot from Daniel Holmer. And can Wayne Douglas get the run off the line and make it 2 out of 2, and in this championship campaign on that momentum run that he's been building since round number 5? All those questions and more are just around the corner, and as we do look to the chats there in both the YouTube, the Twitch and also the Facebook chat with CK teams, they're saying epic racing right to the line with regards to the Facebook chat. And indeed, Katie, 100% agree with you. It was a drag race to the line, but Wayne Douglas being given enough breathing room with Mikey Doble and Gavin Garner trying to take shades out of their time from one another and trying to find a way of getting a nose ahead to the finish. But can Wayne Douglas this time perhaps break away early and leave them all to squabble over P2, or will he be reeled back in? And we see Elwin Sykes here. They've got the Audi RS3 for CSA Racing repaired in the 25 car, and he'll be hoping to have a less eventful start to this race, but one where he can climb up the order. And of course, Elwin Sykes, one of those drivers who, regardless of whether he's having a good day or a bad day, the South African always trying to push a little bit harder and bring up the car on home. And he's had some highs of this season, of course, as he makes his way down through at turn number 4, and he'll be looking to end his season on a high. But he's going to be starting from the back of the field in race number 2, and can he potentially steer clear of some early drama, inherit some positions, and then go on the offensive and perhaps pick up a top 5 in the Prime class, if not higher? We'll have to wait and see. But he won't want to be making that mistake at turns 6 and 7 in the race, we can assure you that. But as he parks it up there, our drivers now have been given the call to make their way back into the pit lane. The checker flag comes out in this warm-up session, and as we see Lee Horn coming out of turn number 12, it is now time for us to get ready to go racing once again. So as they transition onto the grid, this is how they line up for race number 2. Wayne Douglas once again finds himself on the front row, leading in P1 there for Next Gen Racing Yellow, joined on the front row this time by Gavin Garner from Verano Motorsport. Behind them is the pair of Mikey Doble and Daniel Holmer on the second row, followed up by on the third row Andrew Pike and the Prime driver of Joseph Doble. On row 4 it's Alan McCain and Matthew Addy, followed up by Adam Delmont and Ian Manners to complete your top 10. Row 6 contested by Jamie Dory and Nick Clibbens, and then on row number 7 it's Lee Horn and Sebastian Bruberg. On row 8 it's Isaac Doble and Reese Watt, followed followed up by Paul Scott and Nigel Stock in row number 9, and then row 10 goes to Bernardo Colbe and Luke Jones to complete the top 20, with Sam Smith and Philip Bruberg on row 11, row 12 going to Davide Farber and Liam Silkstone, row 13 to Michael Lees and Jonathan Collins, and then row number 14 goes to Elwyn Sykes P27. But that's how they line up. We've had to whistle stop tour through the grid because we're almost ready to go racing, ladies and gentlemen. All our drivers are almost there. We are just waiting on Sam Smith, and now we'll wait the lights. 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights, and it's lights away, and away we go as they make the way down towards turn number 1. The drag race commences, and Wayne Douglas gets a slow start as Gavin Gunn immediately takes the lead in the run into turn number 1. Mikey Doble that cuts across the inside, covering off Wayne Douglas into the opening corner, and as they roll the way on down, Daniel Holmer also tries to come on through, but Wayne Douglas there gets his nose stuck back in, coming through 2. He doesn't want to lose more than 2 places. They make the way on through the opening trio, and as they make the way on down towards turn number 4, further back, we do have a little bit of a showdown between Elwyn Sykes and Jonathan Collins as they make the way down the Retro Foster, but everybody surviving the opening corners, and as they make the way into turn number 4, Matthew Addy on the offensive here up the inside of Alan McCain. He goes for it early here, does Matthew Addy, and this now could really look to give him every opportunity to wrap it up here in race number 2 in the Prime class. But look here at Adam Delmont, who's trying to go around the outside as they head up here into turn number 6, but Addy covers it off as they make the way to the right hander behind Alan McCain defence versus Jamie Dory, and as they come through 7 and up towards 8 onto the brakes, they both make it, and Bernardo Colbe behind, well, trying to hold on right now, but finding himself under pressure there from Isaac Doble on the inside, and Isaac Doble gets it done as Reese Watt tries to come through with him, but Watt has to back out. Their cold tyres and early running on the brakes, and he doesn't want to take any risks, so they make the way through turn number 9 and up towards 10, but into the braking zone they go, and as they head into the second hairpin now, everybody knows the tail's a bit further back. Luke Jones there trying to go up the inside, Liam Silkstone as they come down through 10 and up towards 11 they roll, but as they do, Jonathan Collins also behind as they come through the long left-hander, and meanwhile we do look from them back up towards the leaders as they make the way up the hill. This is the battle for P3. Wayne Douglas holding off Daniel Holman and Andrew Pye, but as they head their way to the timeline to complete lap number 1, and we try to get the circuit map in the top right corner back again, and we do seem to have some technical issues with our overlay at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. We do apologise for this. We'll try and get these fixed as soon as possible. It is Gavin Garner who leads ahead of Mikey Doble and Wayne Douglas behind, but Wayne Douglas there having to go defensive. Andrew Pike on the brakes, hot on the brakes as they make the way on down, under braking into turns 1 and 2, and as they make the way on through, we have to excuse us, we're still trying to get the overlay rebooted, but right now Andrew Pike is ahead of Wayne Douglas and Daniel Holmer as they head up towards turn number 4. Now coming up through Joseph Doble here, trying to go on the offensive as well versus Holmer as they make the way in towards the next braking zone. It's a long run, can they find the way on through? That'll be the challenge. Well, Holmer there covering off as he looks up the inside here to Daniel Holmer to make that defensive move, but he goes overly deep, and Joseph Doble comes on back as they make the way out of turns 4 and 5 and up towards 6 they go, and Matthew Addy just behind there, and you see Adam Delmont also trying to get into the hunt as they head up the hill, but right now Delmont trying to go around the inside, around the outside of Addy, but Addy there just covering off once again and staying close to the back of Holmer, but as they make the way through turns 6 and 7 and into 8, Delmont looks to go on the brakes, Addy outbrakes himself there a little bit, he opens up the door, and as they make the way on through, now he's going to defend on the inside here to the next corner. This is going to be a tricky one for Matthew Addy because now he's finding himself being turned left, right and centre in terms of how much of the road he tries to use to hold off his rivals, but as they make the way into turn number 10, coming down through 10 and up towards 11, and we do get our overlay back, thankfully technical issues resolved. You can see here coming into 11 right now, further back Jamie Dory battling there with what is Alan McCain, and McCain covering him off as they make the way into turn number 12. Into left-hander they go, and the Hyundai Honda Racing driver doing everything right so far as they make the way up the hill and heading towards turn number 1, and once again, but it's a long run, and as they make the way to the next timeline, well, let's give you an update on how the field stands. They make the way on to lap number 3. It is Gavin Garner who leads ahead of Mikey Doble, followed by Andrew Pye and then Wayne Douglas. That's your top 4. Prime leader Joseph Doble behind, as you can see that Andrew Pye holding off Wayne Douglas. Then Holmer behind him, followed by Matthew Addy in at P7, and then it's Adam Delmont followed by Alan McCain and Jamie Dory, with best the rest there Ian Manners staying in touch with the top 10 as they make the way down through turns 1, 2 and 3, but as they make the way through the left-hander here of turn number 3 and onwards towards turn number 4 they go. Well, the 52's Little Crest Racing driver here trying to hold on for now to the top 10, but you can imagine he won't want to fall back to Sebastian Bruberg, who battles side by side here with Nick Clements. Clements the pro driver trying to go round the outside as they make the way in into turn number 4. Free left-hander they go, but Clemens, they're locking up the rear brakes and sliding. And as they come out 4 and into 5, it's going to be 3 wide for a brief moment. And Ian Manners has cleared this, but meanwhile Lee Horn now looks for an opportunity to clear it as he goes up the inside of Sebastian Broberg with Isaac Doble behind, but Isaac Doble being made to go round the outside of Sebastian Broberg here as they continue to fight on for P5 in the Prime class. But meanwhile, Nick Clemens goes all in on the brakes here and says, I want my places back, thank you very much guys. And as they make the way through turns 8 into 9, Isaac Doble being made to wait once again as he comes through 9 and up towards turn number 10. But meanwhile, even further back there, we can see Reece Watt here having to battle with Michael Lees as there's contact Michael Lees, and goodness me, it looked like there was barely any contact between the two of them, but Michael Lees sent to the tyre barrier, and the car, well, that's a broken front left suspension, and that is a disaster for Michael Lees. But it looks like there was barely any contact from the camera angle we had, but I think there might be a different story to that, and we'll try and find out a bit more in short order. But meanwhile, as we continue to look to Reece Watt here, and behind him Davide Favo trying to make ground, but Liam Silkstone coming back at him. Both drivers are getting 4 places overall so far, but now that Liam Silkstone gets his nose ahead, it's going to be 5 places gained by Liam Silkstone as they make their way in towards turn number 1. Going on to lap number 4, they roar, and as they head in towards the braking zone, meanwhile at the front of this group, you can see Ian Manners there side by side with Jamie Dorian losing out. Meanwhile, further back, Lee Horn trying to hold the outside line there through 2 to the inside of 3 versus Sebastian Broberg, and it's going to work for now as meanwhile, we can see there just a bit further behind how Nick Clemens and Isaac Doble watch onto this, but meanwhile onto the grass, and Nick Clemens into the wall there, coming on down the Retro Imposter, and I think trying to see how much width there was to the road, but in the end finding the grass, and the car getting hooked, and the iRacing Esports driver there with misfortune gets it wrong, and it all falls apart. But meanwhile, one driver right now not having misfortune is Davide Favo as he tries to hold off Liam Silkstone here as they make the way down for turn 4 and into 5, but we have had the confirmed where's a total pits for Nick Clemens and a retirement, we understand it, for Michael Lees as they continue on through here and the racing rages on. But meanwhile, we look from the mid and the back of the field to the front of the field here, and it's Garen Gardner who continues to hold the leading advantage, but it's only 2 tenths over Mikey Doble as they come down through turn number 11 and into 12 they roll. But as they head into the braking zone for the next corner, Mikey Doble here staying close. But to give you a sense of perspective, we ride on board here with the NDA Honda Racing driver. Now keep in mind, he exits the corner 3 tenths behind, albeit doesn't have the best run out the corner, but now look at how much the Audi will gain here. Despite the tow, that's the uphill acceleration zone plus 75 kilograms of success balance, and then the absolute monstrous straight line performance of that Audi, and the gap has already opened up by what is 1.5 tenths by the time they get to where the slipstream causes Mikey Doble to start to gain a little bit of time, and then they break into turn number 1, and that is an example of just how strong that Audi is as Mikey Doble there slides under braking into turn number 1. He wants to get as close as possible, but he won't want to make mistakes like that for the simple reason as we make our way deeper into the afternoon here in Brazil, mistakes like that will cost him dear and push him backwards towards Wayne Douglas, who sits 9 tenths back at this current point in time. But as they make the way onwards towards turn number 4, further back here you can see it's 3 wide with the iRacing Esports machine there, and McCain on the outside, Dory on the inside, and Adam Delmont in the middle. Who's going to make it round the lead of this trio? And Dory there, and also what is McCain do the reverse Moses, always Adam Delmont. Delmont backs out of it, knowing that 3 does not go into 1 at the best of times, and as they make their way out the hill now, it's a showdown between McCain and Dory. Dory gaining the pro class position, of course, off the Delmont, but he wants the overall position off the prime of McCain. And as they come on through turns 6 and 7 and up into the braking zone for turn number 8, Dory here, of course, reigning champion in the pro class from season 1. He has lost the crown, of course, in season 2, but still showing us all why he was the season 1 champion, and that's for his bravery and ability to know where to go for those 3 wide moments as he makes his way into turn number 10. Well, he's definitely not feeling more Colin Turkington today as he comes on through the right-hander of the turn 10 hairpin. He's going for it here, and you can understand why, given the fact that he wants to end his season on a high as they make the way to turn number 12 as they come on through. We look back to Isaac Doble here, who continues to find himself stuck behind Lee Horn in the run into turn number 12. Through the left-hander they go, up the run as well, but as they make the way out of Jinsao corner, right now Lee Horn getting the better exit we see, plus also the toe of Broberg in front. Isaac Doble will eventually get a double toe, and that will cause them to equalise out. Meanwhile, further back, Luke Jones here trying to battle with Philip Broberg. Of course, Jones losing up considerably in race number 1 in qualifying, and now having the battle with Philip Broberg on his outside there as they make the way down towards the next corner, but going on to their 6th tour of the circuit in a race number 2. Jones there now lose that in the drag race. You can see the Elantra engines pulling the lap time back on the straights there, and as they make the way onto the anchors, Jones has to give it up for the time being, but if he can nail it over the course on the middle sector of the lap, that's where he'll gain all the time, as there's a mistake there from Davide Farbo and Philip Broberg, and what is Luke Jones come on through as they make the way through turn number 4, well, sorry, turn number 3 and up towards 4, we should say, and they come on down the rest of the straight. Luke Jones there on the outside. Meanwhile, you can see Broberg here not giving up, and the Bright Esports driver here doing everything he can to anchor the JW Motorsport car on the outside, and Jones goes wide, and that will give Philip Broberg the run he needs to hold on to the position, as meanwhile, Jonathan Collins battling with Elwin Sykes as they come on through turn number 4, and Collins there looks at the cutback, but in return, the switchback is covered off by Elwin Sykes, who goes a bit deep on the power, and now Collins gets the run back as they make the way up the hill, but who is going to outtrack the other into turn 6? Well, I think Elwin Sykes will look it up the inside, but he's not close enough there to get the move done as Jonathan Collins outbreaks him and gets it tucked back into the racing line. But whilst all that's happening, of course, we've still got more happening up front, and it's Gavin Gardner who holds the lead over Mikey Doble, and Doble extremely close this time, but we have also had Wayne Douglas having off track, which has dropped to a long way down the order. We will take a look back at what exactly happened to Wayne Douglas very shortly, because it has shaken up the top 10 massively. But meanwhile, this battle for the lead, Garner right now just sticking to his spirits in terms of that speed in the run to turn 1. He puts it in the middle of the road, covers off Mikey Doble, doesn't show any signs of getting it wrong under braking there. Mikey Doble being made to wait again. Meanwhile, further back, Adam Delmont up the inside here of Ian Manners for P9 overall, and exchange of places overall for the 2 class drivers there, with Delmont the pro and Ian Manners the pro-am, but as they come on through turn number 13, I don't think class matters anymore between them. This is a rivalry to the finish as they make the way onto the Retro Aposta, and we take a quick look back at what happened to Wayne Douglas on lap number 6. So as they made the way out to turn number 4, well, there was a little bit of argy-bargy there between Wayne Douglas and Andrew Pye. I think Andrew Pye would argue there he was being crowded off circuit and had had enough of it at that point, and that is what led to the contact between the 2 of them, which saw Wayne Douglas go on around, but definitely Andrew Pye there being made to get his elbows out, and in return getting those elbows out indeed and some more. But as they make the way on through and back to live pitch as we go, well, Wayne Douglas dropping all the way back to P11 as you see him here making his way up into turn number 8 on the brakes now, but still got plenty of time to go as Wayne Douglas. In fact, he comes on down into 9 here and sits 5.5 seconds off of Ian Manners. Meanwhile, further back here we can see Sebastian Broberg holding on to P5 in the prime class right now ahead of Lee Horn. This is the battle for P12 overall, and these two right now not stopping or battling at all, and that does mean that Isaac Doble sits very close behind the pair as they come on down through turn number 11 and onwards towards turn number 12. And I think for Isaac Doble here, he needs to time his attack right, but he can't wait forever, albeit he will be able to wait a little bit longer now as Paul Scott there makes a muddle with turn number 12, outbreaks himself into Jin South corner, and the NXTGEN Racing blue driver can regain that time in the triple toe, then also the Audi straight line speed and the run to turn number 1. But as they all come on through here right now, they are all stacking up behind the P5 driver Sebastian Broberg in the class, and they all want a piece of that position. Meanwhile, speaking of battling for overall podiums, and Joseph Doble here trying to hold on to P3 as the NDA Honda Racing driver finds himself 3 wide in the middle between Daniel Holm on the right, your picture, Andrew Pike on the left. It's 2 Elantra sandwiching the Civic Type R, and as they make the way up towards turn number 4, well, Joseph Doble there tucks the outside, Andrew Pike gets ahead, and Daniel Holmer has to settle for clearing the prime driver but losing 2 places, and Andrew Pike there comes on through and makes it a 2-for-1 special out to turn 3, down the Retro Aposta and into turn number 4, and credit to the Sim Racing Collective driver. You can understand why right now he is considered to be one of the rising stars in the pro class, because it has been a campaign for him to remember after difficulties at Donington. It's only gone up since then. But meanwhile, looking behind Joseph Doble and in particular to Alan McCain, McCain still ahead of Matthew Addy as they come down through 9 and in towards 10 they go. Of course, Matthew Addy getting ahead earlier on, but Alan McCain coming back at him. But for Matthew Addy, he doesn't need to beat Alan McCain or Joseph Doble in order to be able to pretty much guarantee the Pro-Am Championship goes his way. And I believe this 3rd place, the 2 third places, if the race were to finish as it currently stands, would not quite be enough to mathematically guarantee that he is your Pro-Am champion, but he would only need to gain 1 or 2 points in the final race of today in order to be crowned. So right now, again, for McCain and also Joseph Doble, they're doing everything they can right, but the problem is Matthew Addy is doing what he needs to become Pro-Am champion, and is showing no signs of hesitancy. He just executing the laps one after another. Meanwhile, behind there, you can see Adam Delmont currently on to P9 overall, P6 of the Pro class, having to defend versus Ian Maz, the Pro-Am, who tries to move up from P10 overall, and that's your top 10 rolling the way on through. But we have a sizable gap to Wayne Douglas, who is in a bit of no man's land at the moment in P11, with Paul Scott a little bit further back here, trying to put the charge on versus the Pro-Ams in front of him of what is Isaac Doble, and then it's Lee Horn and Sebastian Brubo. Meanwhile, Bernardo Colbe here, 2 wide versus Liam Silkstone, and as they make the way through 1, 2 and 3, they're going to be side by side all the way through Cover de Sol, but the difference here is that Liam Silkstone gets the better run out of turn number 3, and as they head up towards 4, well, Colby's going to try and stay in the draft as long as he possibly can, but he will have to make his mind up soon whether he goes or when he goes for it. But as he comes onto the brakes here, you can see going all in, but in return giving the space to Silkstone, who will now out-drag the Honda in the run through 5, and up towards 6 they make the way, and the difference between the two of them right now is just that Elantra seems to have a little bit more gas on the straight, and of course we talked about that earlier on, the Honda just not the car for those acceleration battles, as meanwhile Liam Silkstone just keeps his head down, holds it to P10 in the Pro-Am class, P17 overall. But as they make the way through turns 8 to 9, we look back up to Jamie Dory here, who continues to battle with Adam Delmont as they make the way on through. And for those of you wondering about Adam Delmont's livery, being the NXTGEN Racing livery, more on that in a brief moment. As meanwhile, Jamie Dory goes a bit wide and jumps out. Adam Delmont up the inside, and as they make the way on through turn 12 and up towards the start-finish straight, they make their way. You can see that Ian Manners caught up behind all this, and in fact, as we ride on board here with Ian Manners, in the tow there of Adam Delmont, and Delmont now covering off what is Jamie Dory there, gifting the tow to his rival of Ian Manners initially to give him the run ahead, but now as they make their way into turn number 1, you can see there Manners being covered off by Delmont, and that's what Delmont's trying to do. He's trying to get Manners ahead of Dory, but in return not let Manners get ahead of him, and that's exactly worked out, as now he has the buffer of a Pro-Am driver between himself and Jamie Dory as they make the way out to 3 and down towards 4. 4 more laps to go, including the one they're currently on, and the battle continues to grow between drivers all inside the top 10 and also outside of it. But as they head onto the brakes this time around, Ian Manners into turn 4, hooks up on the inside line there. Dory tries to cut back, but he can't quite get the car to the inside into turn number 5. Now heading on through turn 5 and up towards 6, we look up to your leaders here. Oh, that Gavin Garner still ahead of Mikey Doble, the Verona Motorsport driver here, really trying to push the tempo, but you can see how Doble was so close as they make the way on through. And we did say any months ago, we'd tell you why it is that Adam Delmont does have an NXTGEN Racing livery on the car, and I can see there John Higgins 011 in the Twitch chat also asking the question. Well, I do believe there may be an announcement coming from Adam Delmont after this season that there might be a switch from Excite Racing to NXTGEN Racing, alternatively some degree of collaboration between the two outfits. I'm not quite sure on the details, but they're the Excite Racing driver flying some of the colours that he may be flying in the future season of the NXTCC, and we'll have to wait to see more about that when the curtain comes up for season 3. But right now definitely running a different livery here today, and perhaps showing us a change of teams going into next season. But as he makes his way on through there, chasing after Matthew Addy still, and Matthew Addy in fact falling off the back of Alan McCain and Joseph Doble as they head towards turn number 1 once more. But Ian Manners also there, and he could be the danger man. As meanwhile, speaking of being in danger, Andrew Pike currently P3 overall in Pro class with 3 more laps to go. Well, he's trying to hold off Daniel Holmer as they make the way on down through turn number 3 at the moment, up towards 4. And the problem for Andrew Pike at this point is, I think he, with all the best will in the world, he may have just pushed those front tyres a little bit too hard, because the pace is dropping away for Andrew Pike versus Daniel Holmer, and Holmer really now becoming that menace to consider as they make the way into turn 4 once again. Behind them, Adam Delmont here, still trying to battle versus Matthew Addy, and Matthew Addy goes very wide, and this is not what Matthew Addy wants right now, for the simple reason Ian Manners now will look to capitalise on this, but they've got to try and serpentine their way in between Delmont. Manners is going to be on the right of the picture there. Delmont in the middle, Matthew Addy up the inside, and Addy comes on back. There's contact between Adam Delmont and Jamie Dory as the two friends and rivals come back together through turn 7 as well, and they both just about survive it, as meanwhile Matthew Addy there avoids a scare as well and holds on to P3 in the prime class right now. Meanwhile, further back, battling for what is effectively P6 in the prime class. You can see here Paul Scott batting hard with Isaac Doble. That's P7 in the prime class, we should clarify, and as they make the way through turns 8, 9 and 10, Isaac Doble holds on for now with Reese Watt all over the back of them as they come into turn number 10. Paul Scott in the Audi goes a bit deep there, and Reese Watt just sees the doors open and absolutely hammers it on through, and as they make the way down for 11 into 12, a bit of a tab there to the back of Watt from Scott, and you can understand why Paul Scott, I think, was hoping he'd have the run on Isaac Doble. Instead, he's now going to have two drivers he's got to get the run on, and that'll be Reese Watt and Isaac Doble on to the next lap. But indeed, the penultimate lap awaits them as our drivers push on ever more, and indeed the sun is gradually setting a little bit at the moment. And meanwhile, at the front of the field, we can see Gavin Gard, the Runner Motorsport driver here, continuing to hold on for the time being, but it's only 1.5 temps as they head down the Retro Aposta once more. In the long charge they go. They've got a little bit of traffic in front of them there. That's Nick Clibbins, who will shortly be a lap down after the difficulties at the start of the race. He'll have blue flags waving for him, of course, but Gavin Garner keeps Mikey Doble at bay for now. Meanwhile, Daniel Holmer close behind Andrew Pike still, and a bit further back we can see here the battle for P4 in the prime class is on, with Ian Maz on the inside there of Matthew Addy, and as they come on through turn number 4 and into 5, well, this is important over the class here, and Ian Maz gets ahead for now, but as they make the way up towards turn 6 and 7, well, they come on through the double right and Ian Maz gets it done, but keep in mind, of course, Matthew Addy, if he finishes P4, well, it definitely will mean you have to get a couple of points in the final race of today, but he still will definitely be the firm favourite. He'll only need to finish approximately what will be a P8 or P7 in the prime class to guarantee the championship crown, but we also do have that reverse grid to consider. Meanwhile, a bit further back, Wayne Douglas now coming up through the field and really trying to get a push on, and in fact he's just made 2 passes into turn number 4 as I hear it in my ear versus what is Adam Delmont and Jamie Dory, and let's take a look back at how it was made. Well, this was in the run out of turn number 3 and up towards 4, and parting the seas here, Wayne Douglas, so going for the Moses manoeuvre, and with Delmont on his outside there into turn 4, the left heel pitcher Dory on his inside on the right, just out dragging the two Hondas, and then made his way under brake, and it became Dory versus Delmont, and as they made their way out, Delmont going a little bit wide, and Jamie Dory taking the place off of Delmont, but Wayne Douglas showing full commitment as we return to the live pictures here, and as our drivers make the way into the final lap, now it's one more turn, white flag waves, and we look to the front of the field, and Gavin Garner right now 4 temps clear of Mikey Doble, and that's exactly the gap he wants for the remainder of the lap. They'll keep him nice and safe, but Mikey Doble, of course, watching on behind here, and Gavin Garner at the moment with all the pressure building. As meanwhile, Daniel Holmer continues to harass the rear of Andrew Pike, but as much as he may, he's not finding a way past the Sim Racing Collective driver at this time. As meanwhile, Matthew Addy looking around the outside of Ian Manners here into turn number 4, and well, Wayne Douglas here under pressure from Jamie Dory a bit further back. They're all battling in sequence into turn number 4. Everyone's settling down, and Reese Watt here also the side-by-side in the battle for what is P7 in the prime class versus Paul Scott, gets up the inside, then holds it for the time being, and also gets the car parts on Apex coming into 5, meaning that the JW Motorsport driver will have enough of a run to hold the inside into 6, 7 and make a successful defense as they head up towards turn number 8. As the battling continues on here, of course, and all our drivers right now really giving it everything they've got on this final lap. We do look from the battle for P7 in the prime class to the battle for the win, and as he makes his way out of turn number 12, it looks as though it's enough of a gap. It is 4 attempts as he heads on up the hill, and well, a great start led to him leading the race, and whilst the two of them in the end broke away from the pack, Mikey Doble never gave up chasing Gavin Garner down, but the difference is Gardner's not made a single mistake, and with the speed of the Audi, it carries him to the line. Gavin Garner is your winner in race number 2 overall in Pro Class, ahead of Mikey Doble P2, and it will be Andrew Pike who just holds on for the Sim Racing Collective ahead of Bright Esports' Daniel Holmer to the line, and Joseph Doble makes it 2 wins out of 2 in the Prime Class, P5 overall ahead of Alan McCain. Ian Manners will just pit Matthew Addy to the post there, meaning it goes to the final race with Wayne Douglas P9 ahead of Jamie Dory and Adam Delmont. Adam Delmont best of rest P11, and then Sebastian Bruberg completes the prime top 5 there in P12 overall ahead of Lee Horn, followed up by Reese Watt and Paul Scott, and then it is Liam Silkstone who crosses the line just ahead of Fernando Colbe and Philip Bruberg. Bruberg there, Philip Bruberg P18, and it's Luke Jones P19 as he makes his way past our cameraman, and then Sam Swift completes your top 20 with Davide Favo coming on through P21, Elwin Sykes P22, and then it will be Nigel Stock who comes to line P23 there. We've still got a couple more drivers to finish this race, of course, after the 52 Silver Crest Racing driver, Jonathan Collins there, P24, and then our last finisher on, in fact, our penultimate finisher will be Isaac Doble as he comes on around, and Isaac Doble being caught up right towards the end. We're not quite sure actually what happened to Isaac Doble. We will try to find out what happened to the Next Gen Racing yellow driver, and then the last driver who will finish this race on the lead lap. We had 27 starters. It will be 26 finishers. Our only retiree was Michael Lees, but it will be Nick Clemens who comes to the timing line and brings on home P26 in a difficult race. The iRacing Esports driver trying to go 4 wide in the run down the Retro Foster, but running out of tarmac on the outside and finding the grass on the wall instead. But the number 13 driver never giving up and bringing it to the finish there as he comes on through to be our last finisher in race number 2. But as he comes across the line, we do try to find out what exactly happened to Isaac Doble, and in fact we do get a replay. Well, this is in the run to turn number 1, and contact there with Paul Scott, and the 2 drivers coming together, and that explains why Isaac Doble dropped a long way down the order, and of course not the way either of them wanted it to go. And the Next Gen Racing yellow driver there with a fellow Next Gen Racing driver, that's the worst thing, of course. For your 2 rivals, it's bad enough, but when it's 2 drivers of the same outfit, it does even compound the woes, and Isaac Doble then having to limp on through with the damage to the car. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring you the provisional results of race number 2. So after another 13 laps of racing, Gavin Garner took the win by half a second almost over Mikey Doble, the Runner Motorsport driver there, digging in and bringing it on home to add to what is another podium and also another win to his tally. And, well, we'd love to see that Audi right up there. NDA Honda Races Mikey Doble at P2, battling all the way to the finish. The top 2 are finishing almost 7 seconds clear of Andrew Pike from the Sim Racing Collective P3. But, of course, that P3 for Andrew Pike will feel like a win, given the fact he's battled so hard for podiums all season, and holding off Bright Esports' Daniel Holmer to the line is no mean feat. Your winner in the Pro-Am class there, P5 overall, Joseph Doble for NDA Honda Racing, ahead of Alan McCain for iRacing Esports and 52 Silver Crest Races Ian Manners. That is your Pro-Am podium. And then Matthew Addy there, P4 in class, P8 overall. The Next Gen Racing yellow driver will not be too upset by that, given the fact that he only needs to really finish the race to score a couple of points in race 3 to become Pro-Am champion. Wayne Douglas, P9 there for Next Gen Racing yellow, ahead of NDA Honda Races Jamie Dory to complete the top 10. And it's Adam Delmont, the pro driver, who's best the rest there for Excite Racing. Ahead of the Pro Impact of Sebastian Bruberg, Lee Horn, Reese Watt and Paul Scott in the run to P15. And then it was Liam Silkstone P16, Honoff Bernardo Colbe ahead of Philip Bruberg, followed up by P19 there, Luke Jones from JW Motorsport and Sam Smith to complete your top 20. The iRacing Esports Pro there having a difficult race number 2. And then Davide Favo P21 for CSA Racing ahead of his teammate Elwin Sykes with 52 Silver Crest Races, Nigel Stock P23, Jonathan Collins for Next Gen Racing Blue P24, Isaac Doble then Next Gen Racing Yellow driver with that instant towards the end P25, and then the last finisher on the lead lap, Nick Clemens P26, with the early retirement, of course, of Michael Lees from Excite Racing, P27. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that marks race 2 of today. And as we bring the schedule up, of course, we have one more race to go, and that will be coming to you in approximately 10 minutes' time, as we're slightly behind schedule. But before we do go to our next race, or the build-up to the next race, of course, we have just the question of the reverse grid draw. And, well, as we now cut over to the commentary booth, well, we will very shortly make our way to the commentary booth. Good evening to you all in here. Well, we now do have the reverse grid draw as always, and what is the status of it, of course, we do have a lottery bowl here as provided by Sam Cases. Thank you to him as always. Professional flight cases. If you're ever looking to take heavy equipment elsewhere around the world, Sam Cases is the place to go with many a special clientele. But as we now have the lottery bowl here, we do now have one of our numbers in the bowl, of course, and I do believe that is the number 7, unless my memory is mistaken, because that was drawn at Oschersleben. But surely I will close my eyes, shuffle the balls around, and then pull one out of the bowl, and that will be our final reverse grid poll for this season. Here we go. And as the shuffle complete, we now go for the draw. Well, it's not the number I think we all wanted. It is going to be number 6 for the season finale. So that will mean that we have got the smallest reverse grid draw possible. And it is Alan McCain who will be starting on pole, joined by Joseph Doble, come the starting grid. And that means it will be a showdown between the two of them for what is the potential Pro-Am win. So they'll be fighting for that P2 and that runner-up spot in the Pro-Am class at the very finish. Meanwhile, the rest of the Pro-Am field will be a long way behind, and they'll have 4 pros between them and the rest of the Pro-Ams. The question is, however, can they potentially replicate what Reese Watt did last time at Oschersleben, or will they find themselves being swarmed by the likes of Gavin Garner, Mikey Doble, and Andrew Pike? We'll find out all that and more in approximately 5 minutes time, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to our final race of the day. We have had races 1 and 2. We started off in the afternoon sunshine, we progressed into the evening sunshine, and now the sun has almost set and we're almost into night time here at the Autódromo José Carlos Pace in Brazil for the final race of the day. It makes me sad to say this, of course, because we want the racing to last forever, but it must come to an end. All good stories must come to a close. And, well, we've got plenty more to look forward to and more on what is to come at the end of today's show. But as our drivers get ready to go, we do have some updates to quickly tell you with regards to the championship standings in the Pro-Am class. It was clarified to me in between race number 2 and where we are now that with regards to that battle for the Pro-Am Championship crown, well, Reese Watts, of course, having the difficulties he's had today, sits a long way back in P4 in the class currently versus his peers of Joseph Doble, who currently sits in P2, and what is between the two of them, Alan McCain, who has taken reverse grid pole. But it is the man of the hour, Matthew Addy, as he sits there for Next Gen Racing Yellow, who has taken the championship crown in race number 2 by a single point, as we're to understand it, over his peers. And as he sits there right now, I think if he's aware of that, I don't think he can quite believe it, given the fact now he has got a free run in race number 3. Of course, he'll look to try and end on the best possible result of the day, but we have had it confirmed based on the results. Of course, it's provisional, subject to any stewards' inquiries, not that we're expecting any to factor in, given the racing we've had at the top of the field between our Pro-Ams. But Matthew Addy right now is effectively your Pro-Am champion with 1 race to go by a single point. And of course now that means for him the pressure is off in the 3rd race of the day, but conversely he'll want to end on a high. He won't just want to creep across the line in last place. You never want to do that when you're the champion before a race has concluded. Instead you want to end on that ultimate high, so you can say you've got that momentum and you finish strong. But of course Reese Watt has gradually made his way up the order for JW Motorsport, and can he have a strong end to today as well? And then it all comes down to really the battle now to be runner-up in what is the Pro-Am class between Joseph Doble and Alan McCain, and which one of the two of them can pull it off. Alan McCain right now would need to overhaul Joseph Doble by taking the win, and Joseph Doble would need to finish a long way down, effectively almost retire for it to swing the other way. But the iRacing Esports driver here will not give up. That is a certainty as he heads into turn number 10 here. But coming on through, the iRacing Esports driver doing everything he can through to the very end of this championship campaign. And of course he will start on reverse grid pole once again, joined by Joseph Doble, and that does seem to be a recurring theme at the moment with regards to reverse grid pole. Alan McCain typically picking up the pole. Of course we saw that at Watkins Glen, if my memory serves me correctly, and we're seeing it again here today at Interlagos. Sad thing is, of course, as well, that we only had a P6 reverse grid pole. I think many of our drivers would have hoped it would have been the number 12, but that's the way the lottery bowl has treated us today. But to be fair, only 6 drivers inverted. It's still going to be a classic because we have got that roaring top 4 of the pros behind the 2 Pro-Ams, and really for the 2 Pro-Ams it's all about battling one another and trying to take that winning class. We also see there Katie Hussein make it a good reverse grid pull. It didn't quite work out a good one. We see Davide Farber and Elwin Sykes again a little bit tearful with regards to enjoying all the race, enjoying the series as a whole. Great to see the CSA racing drivers there with the feedback. We really do appreciate that, guys. But right now what all the drivers will appreciate is going to the grid and getting set for the final race of the season. So as they head to the grid, this is how they line up for the final time. Alan McCain with reverse grid pole for iRace Esports, joined on the front row by championship rival for the runner-up spot in the Pro-Am class of what is NDA Honda Race's Joseph Doble. Daniel Holmer and Andrew Pye line up together on row at number 2. The Bright Esports driver there looking to gain the upper hand versus Andrew Pye, but can he? The Sim Racing Collective driver there knowing how to get the upper hand on Holmer in race number 2. And on the 3rd row, it's Mikey Doble versus Garen Gardner, and the Verona Motorsport driver there will once again look to try and pip the NDA Honda Racing driver to the line. Behind them on row at number 4, we have the pair of what is Ian Manners and Matthew Addy, followed up by Wayne Douglas and Jamie Dory to complete the top 10. And it is Adam Delmont and Sebastian Bruberg on the 6th row, followed up by the pairing on the 7th row of Lee Horner and Reese Watt. Then Paul Scott and Liam Silkstone, followed up by Bernardo Colbe and Philip Bruberg on row number 9. And then completing the first 10 rows, the top 20, Luke Jones and Sam Smith. But the gridding process is complete, ladies and gentlemen. We have to stop going through the grid. We await the lights. 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. and it's lights out and away we go for the final time this season as all the drives get underway, and Alan McCain looks to fend off Joseph Doble in the run to turn number 1. Now as they come on down here onto the brakes, we can see that Joseph Doble gets the better launch and Daniel Holmer immediately on the offensive, but Gavin Garner leapfrogging his way up through the field all the way up there into what is P4, but Gavin Garner now under pressure from Andrew Pike as he's made to go wide on cold tyres. Meanwhile further back everybody's surviving the opening corners, but already the night lights are coming out here as they make their way down the Retro Foster, and as everyone comes charging on down, a flash of lights from a few there as they head into the braking zone. At the front here we can see Mikey Doble up the inside of Daniel Holmer taking the lead of the pros already as he heads on down through 4 into 5. Meanwhile further back Matthew Addy there holding on to his starting position, keeping Ian Manners behind him as they make the way on through, and in fact taking the place off of Ian Manners as they head up the hill. A few more flashing lights behind there. Reese Watt as well gaining a great amount of places so far, trying to go around the outside there of Lee Horn. The two Honda drivers give each other space as they come through turn 7 and up towards 8. Lee Horn out breaking the JW Motorsport driver, but still Watt continues to go around the outside and continues to try and fight it, but he loses out in the end. As they return to the racing line there, only one wide for the time being. Meanwhile further back Nigel Stott with a difficult start, trying to battle his way past Davide Favo, but Favo covers him off there as they cut across lines, and as they make the way out towards turn number 10, Stott trying to go round the outside, no way for it at the moment, or is there, as he gets it round the outside, and Nigel Stott, that's what you never see at turn number 10, but now it's a drag race for 11, but he'll get that done as he takes the leading line through the corner. Meanwhile looking a bit further, Ian Manners there, having dropped away from Matthew Addy at the start, and now being dropped a bit further by Jamie Dory ahead and having to battle with Sebastian Bruberg, and also what is Lee Horn behind as the trio make the way on through and up towards turn number 1 once again, and that's one lap complete. But as they drag the race their way on through, we look to leaders, and after one lap it is Joseph Doble who leads in the prime class and overall ahead of Alan McCain P2, Mikey Doble P3 followed by Pike 4th, then it's Holmer P5 followed by Douglas P6, then Gardner P7 as they make the way on through the centre S, Gardner P7, Delmont P8, and then Addy followed by Jamie Dory completing your top 10. Best of the rest there Sebastian Bruberg, but meanwhile as they come roaring on through turn number 3 they go once more, and you can see here right now nobody settling down in this prime class, everybody trying to pick a bone with one another with regards to getting into that positioning in the battle for P4 in the prime class, and it is Sebastian Bruberg who right now has broken away with Ian Manners a little bit further back, and as they come on through, Ian Manners takes the position for now, but I don't think it's going to be long before Lee Horn tries to come back at him, and meanwhile we can see there Reese Watt going a little bit wide on the exit of 5, and up the hill into 6 they go, but under Colby trying to go around the outside here, onto the brakes they'll go. Can Colby get it done for Garton McColby Race, and the Kimmy Tool Machine trying to fight on here, but finding the rear of the JW Motorsport car right in his face. He makes his way into turn number 8 behind Paul Scott. They're trying to get his nose in, trying to elbow the door open, but not find it. Instead goes a bit deep into turn 9. Instead has to give the space to Isaac Doble, who tries to capitalise, but now of course it's going to be a switch back into a right-hander, and this is where Paul Scott could be an inconvenience in terms of just keeping the car on the inside line and powering out, and Isaac Doble has to give him the space as they make the way out of turn number 10 into 11, but Isaac Doble comes on back here, down through Magulo they go, and up to a Jed Sal, but the Audi just about beats the Honda into the braking zone, but now they're side by side coming out of the corner here, neither driver giving up, both showing great spatial awareness of one another, and as they make the way towards the start finish line, Isaac Doble ahead for now, but in the acceleration stakes that Honda will lose out gradually, as meanwhile we look to the front of the field. And Mikey Doble right now 1.2 seconds behind Joseph Doble, as meanwhile his brother tries to lead this race and do what Reese Watt did at Oschersleben, and you see Andrew Pike there up the inside of Alan McCain as he makes the move, and they come down through 2 and into 3. The two drivers don't give one another room, instead they both try to contest the same space, and Pike there I think having to back out before it could have been curtains before that final checker flag as they make the way coming down towards turn number 4. In the run they go, and now Pike having to go defensive here versus Holmer behind him, and what on his outside is Gavin Gardner having to make the two drivers battle one another and force them backwards. Meanwhile Wayne Douglas just simply sweeps around the outside and says, well, don't mind if I do, thank you, as they head on through 5 and up towards turn number 6. Now up the hill they go, and at the back of this group will Jamie Dory right now trying to hold off Matthew Addy. As Matthew Addy there with a reasonable start, of course, champion crowned now, albeit he'll be formally crowned after today, but Matthew Addy not having the pressure on to try and get past all the pros to go hunting after Alan McCain or Joseph Doble anymore, as they continue to fight their way on through the middle sector of the lap. But meanwhile it's not just about the battles inside the top 10, as we see here a bit further back Nigel Stott chased after Elwin Sykes in the battle of the Audis, and Isaac Doble behind them as they come on down and through turn number 9. But as they make their way through the left-hander, we're hearing that Sam Smith has had to retire due to an incident on the opening lap. We believe it was an incident on the opening lap. We will try and find out what exactly happened to Sam Smith very shortly. But meanwhile, Nigel Stock here keeping with his eyes at Doble at bay, but losing a bit of ground to Elwyn Sykes. And in fact, we do have a replay coming up at what exactly happened to Sam Smith that caused him to have to retire. Well, this was at the start of the race as they made the way on down, and will Sam Smith there in contact. Well, before you can see the car crabbing with the suspensions not pointed the right way, and instead we try to find out what happened a bit earlier as he went to the wall, and it was coming on down the hill. Contact there with Luke Jones, and that was everything, as there was a bit of a concertina there between Jonathan Collins and also we believe that was Darren Farber in the CSA Racing Audi. Nigel Stock capitalised that Sam Smith at that point with the damage done. It was already over before he could even complete the first lap. Very unfortunate for Sam Smith and not the way he wanted to end his season. But as we return to live pictures, we look to Nigel Stock here, continues to chase after Elwyn Sykes. Meanwhile, further up the order, we can see here in the battle for P3, P4, it's Wayne Douglas up the inside of Alan McCain, and McCain there being pushed a little bit wide as they come through 4 and into 5, and that means Andrew Pike comes on through as well, and Alan McCain being denied the right to stay close enough to chase after Joseph Doble as they make the way up towards turns 6 and 7, but still there's plenty of time to go, and you can imagine that for Alan McCain right now, he'll be thinking about just keeping his head down and making sure that race result could come to him should there be any instance or anything that shakes up the field. But meanwhile, speaking of a shake up the field, we're hearing that David Farber and Philip Broomberg have had a bit of a coming together earlier on this lap, and we'll try and understand what exactly has happened very shortly. But meanwhile, a bit further behind here, you see Jamie Dorey has caught up to the back of Daniel Holmer in the battle for P8 overall, P6 in the Pro class, and is now trying to put pressure on the Bright Esports driver as they make the way on down through turn number 11. But coming on through and up towards turn number 12 they go, and well, Samson of course not having a great day. He also did have a drive-through penalty that we didn't capture in race number 1, but right now Jamie Dorey here pressing on and trying to find a way to beat Daniel Holman to the next corner. But that's the one problem, of course, we said time and time again, the one thing the Honda lacks is the speed to be able to outrace its opponents to the next heavy braking zone where all the braking goes the way of the Honda. But as they make the way into the next corner, we look to the front of the field here and we can see that Joseph Doble leads the way, albeit Mikey Doble right behind him. And the two NDA Honda Racing drivers at this point in time, both together, and really right now it's between them for the lead and for a sizable time, perhaps the win as well, given the fact that Wayne Douglas is a whole second behind. Meanwhile, a bit further back behind them, you can see how right now Gavin Gardner falling behind the next group with Alan McCain between him and the next pro drivers of Andrew Pike and Wayne Douglas. But meanwhile at the front here, there's going to be a potential move on. Joseph Doble trying to hold off Mikey Doble here as they make the way up. It's Joseph Doble on the left of your picture, Mikey Doble on the right, but you can see here how Mikey is trying to go around the outside, and as they make the way through turns 6 and 7, neither one wants to give way at the moment. Sibling rivalry aplenty, but they give one another space, and he defends well does Joseph Doble as they come down into Paralulio, and as they make the way through turn number 9, he keeps them at bay for now. But we ride on board the gearbox here, you can see how everybody's been brought together in this long train behind the race leader. As you can see, Wayne Douglas trying to get into the mix here now with Mikey Doble being forced to defend a little bit. This may just give Joseph Doble the room he needs in order to breathe for a brief moment and break away. But of course Wayne Douglas won't just be wanting one of the two Doble family members, he'll be wanting both of them in terms of places gained as they come towards the end of this 5th lap of 13. But as they make the way charging up the hill once more, it's a long drag race and Joseph Doble gets a good run, but he's got no toe. Meanwhile, everybody else now just siphoning the slipstream off of one another. You see Mikey Doble there defending on the inside as they bring it on through the kick of 15, charging up towards turn number 1. Joseph Doble comes off the inside here as they head into the braking zone. Wayne Douglas looking to the left-hand side of your picture here as they make the way onto the brakes, and he tries to go round the outside of Mikey Doble in return. Now Douglas on the inside into 2, and he gets ahead, does Wayne Douglas, and now Mikey Doble has to try and come back in the run down the Retro Foster straight. But the problem here for him is in the fact that now he finds himself under pressure from Andrew Pike and Alan McCain. Meanwhile, it's just about putting a stopper to Gavin Gardner's process in the battle for P5 overall. But you see now Wayne Douglas covers the middle, he brings it back to the inside. He's got to be careful about weaving there, of course. They're allowed one change of line, multiple changes are not allowed. It's considered dangerous. But then Wayne Douglas, I think, there just a bit of indecisiveness and sticks to a line in the end. But definitely right now, everyone will be raising an eyebrow and thinking, okay, where's he going to put it next time? As meanwhile, we see Alan McCain here to fend off Gavin Gardner and trying to keep the pro driver behind him as they make the way on up the hill. Meanwhile, further back, Reese White continuing to battle with Paul Scott. These two have been exchanging places constantly in the battle for P7 in the Prime Class, P14 overall, and what being able to get ahead in the corners but just not having the run on the straights as they head up through into turn number 8. And coming on down to the round right now, a bit further back, Bernardo Colby keeping that Liam Silkstone behind him as the alternate with Colby racing driver here falling backwards over the hunt of Reese White and really now trying to dig in for the final spots inside the top 10, with Elwyn Sykes also in this mix, currently P11 in the Prime Class and P18 overall. But as they roll out of turn at number 10 and into 11, you can see Nick Clemens as well also looking at this, the pro driver here looking to give it a go versus the Pro-Ams. And meanwhile we see Daniel Holmer, they're going a bit slowly coming out of turn number 12. Wonder if there was a mistake from Holmer. Did he put a wheel to the grass potentially, because he's lost multiple places? He's dropped behind Matthew Addy, and Daniel Holmer now falls all the way back to P10 overall, P7 in class as they head on towards turn number 1. But meanwhile Wayne Douglas here trying to go around the outside of Joseph Doble into the opening corner, but can he get the cut back here, or can he go around the outside? He can get neither. And instead what he's going to try and do is get the run onto the Retro Poster and make his way up the inside into turn number 4. But certain Joseph Doble may be wary of this. He immediately brings the car over to the left. He has that race sense as they make the way up towards the next left-hander. And you can see here Wayne Douglas trying to pin Joseph Doble to the inside, but Doble opens the corner up. As meanwhile Mikey Doble gets under the brake and on the inside there, helping his brother out as they make the way through turn number 4. Into 5 they go, and Wayne Douglas has to yield there. I don't think he quite expected Mikey Doble to come in hot on the brakes, but Mikey's showing that when he needs to, he can make that Honda stop. And Andrew Pike looking at this right now and trying to get back into the medley as they make their way through 6 and 7. At any moment this could all kick off at even a higher level, but as they make their way down towards turn number 8 right now, Pike there on the inside to outside versus Douglas, who goes overly deep. Pike tries to hold the momentum here, and of course these two, no strangers to making contact with one another, and Pike then not, I think, being given the room he thinks he should have been allotted. As the back out, they're coming out of 9 and into 10 as they make the way through the hairpin up towards turn 11. They go down, they roll. Gavin Garner being given a bit of a tap there by Adam Delmont as they make their way through 11. The two of them coming together, albeit being concertinaed in behind, and this is affecting your top 9 separated by 2 seconds from nose to tail. Meanwhile going wide there, that is Andrew Pike, who just about brings it back on circuit before he hits the metal barrier. And as they make their way through, Andrew Pike right now using up one of his 9 lives, and we'll be grateful for that as he makes his way up to speed in the run to turn number 1. But they've only got another 6 laps to go as they go on to lap number 8. And what the front, it's going to be 3 wide in the headlights here with Joseph Doble on the inside, Mikey Doble on the middle, and Wayne Douglas backing out as they come off the brakes and into turn number 1. We can see Wayne Douglas there definitely trying to put pressure on Mikey Doble as they make the way through the centre S. Behind them, however, the top 4 are slightly breaking away with P5 Adam Delmont now ahead of Gavin Garner for the time being, but they're all sizing one another up. And as they make their way down the Retro Possible, they've all left it to the last possible moment today because they're all trying to go 3 wide. And Adam Delmont right now clear of Gardner, but meanwhile Jamie Dory, Andrew Pye and Matthew Addy together, and Jamie Dory a bit of contact there with what looked to be Matthew Addy as they made the way on through, and he just about catches the car in time, but he goes deep, and Daniel Holmer picks up the places as a result. And Holmer, of course, with that moment at turn number 12 earlier on, now gets back into the fight. Meanwhile, it's not just about the top 10 with Ian Manners here battling around the outside of Sebastian Bruberg for P4 in the Prime Class, P11 overall, as Manners looks to try and get the move done, but Sebastian Bruberg comes back strong here, using the handling of the Honda to his advantage. Now it's a battle on the brakes. He's there on the inside. I think Manners is going to have to back out and wait his turn as they come on down through turn number 9 and into 10, but the two not separated by much. Meanwhile, we'll look to Matthew Addy trying to go around the outside of that Daniel Holmer as they make their way through 10. He looks to have it done, but as they come out of 10 and into 11, he's not going to quite have enough yet to get it all said and done. It looks like with Holmer carrying the speed on through. It's the battle of the Hyundais, and right now Matthew Addy loses out a little bit. He loses the rear end, a bit of a touch there with Daniel Holmer. They continue to drag race. Meanwhile, ahead of them, we can see here Wayne Douglas now ahead of Mikey Doble. I think Mikey Doble there loses that in the run down through 10 into 11. We didn't quite catch it on camera, but what we can see here is that Wayne Douglas now in P2 being given a free run to chase after Joseph Doble, with Alan McCain back up into P3 overall, P2 in class. And meanwhile, Gavin Garner here tucked in behind Adam Delmont, trying to find his way on through. Can't find it at the moment as we hear that Paul Scott has had to be towed to the pits due to an incident. We'll try and find out what happened very shortly, but it is all all happening left, right and centre in this field right now. The top 10 of course incredibly close, but meanwhile a bit further back Nigel Stott battling too wide with Nick Clemens in the run into turns 1 and 2, and he holds off Nick Clemens for the time being, as Clemens there does try to also find a way past Bernardo Colbe, but in return by going so wide and deep ends up losing the places to Colbe and Stock in return. But as they make the way down the red top post here, you can see Colbe weaving a bit, they're trying to break the toe. He's going to be careful with that as they head onto the anchors, and meanwhile Elwin Sykes also behind this, and also Isaac Doble there in what effectively is the battle for P9 in the Prime Class, P16 overall. And as they make the way on through, a bit further up the road in turn 6 and 7 already, Sebastian Bruberg still digging in and holding off Ian Manners here as they come on through the right hand return number 8 and up towards 9 they drop. But as they make the way on through, we do take a quick look back at what exactly happened to Paul Scott on the previous lap, which has led to him being towed to the pits. Was in the run to turn 12 as he came on through. He's got a bit deep, and I think he's carried a bit too much speed on the corner. He's gone onto the grass, it's downhill, and it's a whack to the wall. And for Paul Scott, that is his race over. You can see the right suspension from the driver's perspective collapsing, and that was it. Very unfortunate for the Next Gen Racing Blue driver, but as we return it to the live pictures now, still plenty of racing to go wherever you look in the field. But we look up to the front of the field here, as meanwhile Joseph Doble leads the pack onto lap number 10. He's got Wayne Douglas squirming left, right and centre behind him, and as they make the way into the left-hander once more, Doble there defending well versus Douglas, and Mikey Doble just behind, trying to get back into the mix. But as they come down through 2 and into 3, there's contact between the two of them. A bit of elbows out here, but Joseph Doble no stranger to need to get his elbows out where he can, and Wayne Douglas they've been passed by Mikey Doble on the inside through turn number 3. But as they head down the back straight here up towards turn number 4, it's pure darkness in the run up towards turn number 4. There's no circuit lighting, so for our drivers now it's all about instinct, memory and knowing where the corners are. And you can see here just how right now everybody literally on the precipice of not being able to make the next corner. They're all running to the ragged edge, and I wonder if anyone's going to make a mistake shortly, because right now they're all just about keeping it within the limits. It only takes one to get it wrong, and it may all become undone. And right now Alan McCain having to fend off Gavin Garner, who tries to go around his outside into turn number 8. And the prime driver here really just simply keeping his claws in as we Wayne Douglas going deep, and Douglas looking for the run through turn number 9. Adam Delmont, they're getting the move and sealing it, and Alan McCain now on the inside into turn 10. I don't think he's going to go anywhere but the inside here. He can't really find any more space. Gavin Garner side by side with Andrew Pike. Pike coming back through, a bit of contact between Garner and Pike, and meanwhile making the way on through. You can see that Jamie Dory also getting back into this now as they make the way into Jinsao corner. Garner defends here versus Pike. Dory gets close, it's a tap to the rear of the Audi between the Honda driver, and as they make the way out to 12, still more to go. We still do have 3 more laps to turn as they head to the timeline once again. But right now, who's going to be your winner? Will Joseph Doble repeat the historical moment of Reese Watt last week and hold on to make it another prime overall win? We'll have 2 of them in a season, and that is like rolling double sixes twice in dice. But as they make the way in towards turn number 1 once again, Jamie Dory under pressure here from Daniel Homu goes straight up his inside and seizes the opportunity. Meanwhile, as they roll the way on through, Wayne Douglas gets ahead of Adam Delmont, and further back outside the top 10, Reese Watt trying to go round the outside of Lee Horn to the inside of 2 he goes. And can the JW Motorsport driver get it done this time? I think he can, but Lee Horn's there again as they head through the Curva del Sol and onto the Retro Post they go. You can see further up the road there, battle between Joseph Doble and Mikey Doble kicking off, and we will look at that as they make the way through turn number 5. And well, that is Joseph Doble on the inside. Mikey Doble now will get the inside into turn number 6, and as they head onto the brakes here, Mikey Doble backs out for the brief moment as they make the way on through. But we look back to that battle between Lee Horn and Reese Watt that survived the run out of turns 4 and 5. It continues uphill into turn number 6. Reese Watt on the inside there. Lee Horn tries to turn in but finds he's got headlights to deal with there, and Reese Watt keeping his nose in, not giving up as they've got Liam Silkstone getting close to him. This is in the battle for what is P6 in the prime class, and these two going for it. And Reese Watt here, despite everything going wrong today in qualifying and not working out in races 1 and 2, he has not lost his motivation. Reese Watt, this is the best we see of Reese Watt when he digs in and gives it everything he's got, and it doesn't matter what position it is, he couldn't care right now. He's enjoying himself, there's no question about it, as he comes down for turn number 11. He's looking to try and gain 1 more place today, but Lee Horn literally giving it everything to keep it at bay, as meanwhile Liam Silkstone watches on. But as they come down and through turn number 12 and up the hill they go, you can see the Lee Hall right on the ragged edge. Further back, Elwin Sykes trying to find his way past where's Isaac Doble. In fact, Isaac Doble passed him quite recently on this lap. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, we look back to leaders here. Wayne Douglas going in very hot on the brakes the inside. He drifts the car in. It's a lunge, and Mikey Doble's turned across the front of Adam Delmont there. It's a whack to the wall for Mikey Doble. And now it's all going up a notch here in terms of instance, as we can see that Joseph Doble continues to lead after Douglas tried to make the move into turn number 1. It didn't work out, but now this is the shake up the field's needed, because what it means is everybody's too wide, as Mikey Doble's had to be towed to the pits from that contact with Adam Delmont going through 1. We'll take a look back at that very shortly if we can, but as they make the way on through here, meanwhile Alan McCain fending off Andrew Pike again, and Pike just cannot find a way past McCain. We saw this earlier on in race number 1. It was just nigh on impossible for Pike to be able to clear McCain without McCain finding a way to counter-attack every time, and Matthew Addy on the inside here of Daniel Holmer doing the same, as Jamie Dory there dragging the brakes through turn number 8, and I think Matthew Addy had to back off a little bit there when he wanted to carry speed, and instead loses out here and lose out to everybody as they come through turn number 9 and up into 10 now. Dory defending versus Holmer, and will the NDA Honda Racing driver, he'll do everything he can to make sure Holmer does not get ahead, and instead he's given the opportunity to go chasing after Alan McCain as they make the way on through turn number 11 up towards 12. But right now between the two of them there's very little to it as they make the way into left-hander of 12 and up towards 15 they go. But in the long run here, one more lap to be turned, and at the front of the field it is Joseph Doble, the prime driver here from NDA Honda Racing, who is trying to bring home his first overall win of his NXTCC career. Well, we saw Reese Watt do it last week. It'd be the first prime to bring on home an overall win, and Caddy with one more lap to go fend off the charge of this man, Wayne Douglas, who is absolutely unrelenting, uncompromising and unflinching when it comes to racing for the win. And as he makes his way through turn number 3 right now, we can see Joseph Doble defend him. He did his contact, and Joseph Doble's knocked to the wall there. It wants to be a tap to the rear of the car, and Douglas takes the lead, albeit I don't think anyone's going to be too pleased about that in the NDA Honda Racing garage. Adam Delmont is promoted to P2, but that's not the way we expected or wanted it to go, and it looked as though there may have been a bit more than just a bump on the rear. But as they make the way up towards turns 6 and 7, it is Wayne Douglas who leads at the moment, with Adam Delmont and Gavin Garner behind, and Andrew Pike there, P4. I went on to P4 in class, trying to find a way onto the pro podium at this time. But I think right now he's really going to have to send a move into Jinsao if he wants to get this done versus Garner, because it does not seem to be coming. And Garner right now all over the back of Delmont all the way to the finish here. As meanwhile, a bit further back, Matthew Addy trying to hunt after Daniel Holmer, but no way through for him as they make the way through turn number 10 and into 11. And well, the battle's all so close to the front of the field as they head into turn number 12 for the final time, and it's a drag race to the finish line. And it looks like Wayne Douglas here with the run out the final corner, he's got enough in the tank. As he comes through the kink of 14, there's one more kink to go. It's 3.5 attempts, and well, despite the controversy at the start of this lap, he heads to the line here, and the checker flag awaits, and Wayne Douglas will be your winner for Next Gen Racing Yellow in race 3 of the day, as Adam Delmont cross line P2 ahead of Gavin Garner. Andrew Pike just misses out on the podium P4, and Alan McCain brings on home another prime win for iRacing Esports there. The 212 drive P5 overall ahead of Jamie Dory and Daniel Holmer there. It's Matthew Addy who with that P2 there in race number 3. That's another podium to his mix. But on top of that, he is your Pro Am champion for season 2 of the NXTCC, the number 57 driver Next Gen Racing Yellow. It was confirmed in race number 2 by a single point, but this is the bow tie on top of it that seals it all. Meanwhile, Sebastian Brubo P9 there, P3 in the Pro-Am classes. Everyone in formation flashing their lights, they're 9, they're on camera and reflecting on what has been an absolute flash dash and fantastic season. And Sebastian Bruberg in the final race of his season, bringing on home, and I may be incorrect on this, but I think if my statistics serve me well, that is the first podium in the Pro-Am class that Sebastian Brubo has brought home. He may have one more podium at the start of the season, but I think it is his very first, unless I'm mistaken. Ian Manners P10 there, and P4 in the Pro-Am class, and best of the rest, Joseph Doble, who it did not go the way he expected it to, of course, when he was on course for what could have been an overall win, or at least a definite triplet of wins today in the Pro-Am class. Reese Watt P12, a difficult end to his season, but still, he never gave up ahead of Liam Silkstone. Nick Clemens P14, Lee Horn P15 in the end, Fernando Cobe P16 as they come on through. Everybody running together here to bring it into the pit lane, and then Elwin Sykes P17 ahead of Luke Jones P19 there, and Isaac Doble P18 we should say, Nigel Stott P20, Philip Bruvo P21, Daryl Favo P22, and then it was Mikey Doble, Paul Scott, Jonathan Collins and Sam Smith. But what a fantastic race from start to finish, albeit not without controversy at the line, with Wayne Douglas in that contact with what was there, Joseph Doble in the run down the Retroposta on the final lap. And I think that may go to the stewards after the race, but still a celebration of the NXTCC Season 2 as Gavin Gunn there creeping his way on around, and I think he will be absolutely exhausted come the end of it, given the race he's had to do in that Audi all the way through the season. But of course, congratulations to all of our drivers for a fantastic championship, and a special congratulations to our champions, who will be crowned, of course, after this formally, as in the Pro class, Mikey Doble for NDA Honda Racing, Matthew Addy in the Pro-Am class for NXTGEN Racing at Yellow, NDA Honda Racing taking the Teams Championship, and of course Honda taking the Manufacturer's crown by a staggering margin, and also the overall champion of Season 2, Mikey Doble for NDA Honda Racing as well. But with the racing complete and most of our drivers now back to the pit lane, will we now take a look to those results for the final time. These are the provisional results for race number 3 of round 8, the season finale of the NXTCC Season 2. Well, after another 13 laps of racing, Wayne Douglas takes the win there for NXTGEN Racing at Yellow, albeit I think there might be a bit of a stewards inquiry as to what happened at the end of the race there, but at least on track takes the win for the team ahead of Adam Delmont from Excite Racing at P2, and Adam Delmont really ending his season campaign on a high, and that confirms him as second place finisher in the Pro Championship there, which is what he was going for today, ahead of Gavin Gardner from Verano Motorsport, who completed the Pro and the overall podium. Andrew Pipe for the Sim Racing Collective denied at the finish to be back on the podium, but still showing just how far he's come over the course of the season in the 99 Elantra, ahead of Alan McCain, who makes it another win in the Pro-Am class for iRace Esports. And Alan McCain, one of those drivers who really ran it well, but albeit I do believe with the way the results have gone today, that will mean that he will have finished P3 in the Pro-Am Championship. It's going to be very close, but I think Joseph Doble will have just beat him to the post. Jamie Dory P6, Daniel Homer P7, and then Matthew Addy, your Pro-Am Championship winner in the end, bringing home P2 in class, ahead of Sebastian Brubo P3 in the Pro-Am class. So, of course, your Pro-Am podium there of Alan McCain, Matthew Addy and Sebastian Brubo. Ian Manners P10 there, and then best of the rest, P11, Joseph Doble with 2 wins, but not able to make it a triple. But you never know, in Season 3 he may just do so. Then we can see on what is P12, Reese Watt, the JW Motorsport driver, giving it everything in the races today, but just not working out, not quite on the pace of his peers, but still enjoying the run, and that will cement him as P4 in the Pro-Am Championship. Liam Silkstone, P13, ahead of Nick Clemens and Lee Horn. That completes the run to the end of the top 15, with Bernardo Colbe P16, Elwin Sykes P17, and then Isaac Doble P18. And the JW Motorsport driver of Luke Jones, just not his day today in the season finale, P19, and ahead of Nigel Stott from 52 Zilla with Crest Racing, who enjoyed a great battle with Davide Favo all the way to the finish. The CSA Racing driver there of Favo P21, ahead of Philip Bruberg, and then we had drivers who finished a lap or more down there, Mikey Doble, Paul Scott, Jonathan Collins, and Sam Smith, due to respective retirements. Unfortunate way to end their racing for this season, but still it does happen, and congratulations to them and to all of our drivers for competing in the season. What a championship it has been. But it's not over yet, of course, ladies and gentlemen, because as darkness settles on the Interlagos circuit, we do have our post-round interviews still to go. We'll be back in approximately 10 minutes for those, but until then, do let us know in the respective chats, whether you're on Twitch, YouTube, or alternatively Facebook, what your favourite moment of today has been and who your driver of the season has been, if you do want to. But we'll see you very shortly for the post-round interviews. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we are back now for our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. And today we have got a even split when it comes to Pro-Ams and Pros. We'll be firstly hearing from Matthew Addy, our crowned Pro-Am champion for this season, before coming on to Adam Delmont, our runner-up in the Pro Championship class from iRacing. And then we'll come to Jamie Dury, our Pro driver. Of course, reigning champion has handed over the reins to Mikey Doble in the Pro class and also series organizer. And then we'll be hearing from Liam Silkstone, the Pram driver, that despite the difficulties from today, enjoyed the racing all the same. Well, as we get ready to speak to our next gen racing yellow driver, he does join me now in the interview room. And Matthew, well, what a way to wrap up your championship and be crowned Pram champion. Let me firstly say congratulations on what has been an absolutely superb championship campaign. You must be absolutely pleased with the results tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I can't quite believe it, to be honest. It feels a bit. It's not set what it's set in yet, so yeah, maybe later it will set in.
Well, it may not have set them right now, but still, what a way to go about it today. Of course, going into this round with a sizable advantage in excess of 40 points and knowing you only needed to technically accrue 37 points, did that decide how you wanted to approach today in terms of go all in or play it safe or a mixture of the two?
I always play it safe. It was just a case of holding on to Joe, really. I knew he was going to be faster because I've been struggling on this track all weekend. So it was a case of catching on to him. When I was told in the second race how close the gap was, I couldn't believe how I'd lost all those points, to be honest. But yeah, keep it consistent is always the motto.
Well, playing it as consistently as you did, going into this round, of course, we did hear on the grapevine from the practice sessions last night that yourself and a number of drivers were struggling at the Interlagos circuit in terms of lap time. And really, with regards to your qualifying session, looked as though the lap was there. It just wasn't quite enough to beat Joseph Doble, but also having to spar with Alan McCain for the majority of qualifying.
No, absolutely. I just don't know what it is. I just couldn't hook it up on this circuit, to be honest. Maybe I've been used to driving the GT3 and the Daytona, but yeah, it was good. Alan was getting involved as well. Thankfully, he took the fastest lap off in race one, and yeah, that gave me the extra point.
Now, of course, with that in mind, qualifying and translating to race one, as you say, Alan taking that fastest lap out of Joseph Doble. But focusing on your race number one, we did see you really mix things up and finding yourself sandwiched between McCain and a number of pros who wanted to come on through. Were you thinking about those pros in terms of interfering with your championship, or was it a sort of just sit there and wait and see what happens?
No, absolutely, they were interfering, but I know that the people around me had their own championship place to fight for. Not the overall, but you know, a few places in it. But it was, I did let a couple of them go and try and get me back onto the pack and onto Joseph again. But it was just me struggling, to be honest. I couldn't catch.
Well, then coming out of race number one with a P8 finish and what was a podium in class, we went into race number two and saw much of the same in terms of a race start. We had a good start, albeit still battling with the likes of Alan McCain, but also the pros around you. Was race two more of the same from your perspective, or was it starting to become a bit of perhaps an exercise in frustration, particularly with Ian Manners getting closer and closer as the laps went on?
Absolutely, yeah. It was a very good start in race two. I knew that I had to do Alan McCain on the start there, so managed to get that done and just trying to get a gap to the people behind. But yeah, I saw Ian impending coming. It was inevitable, really. Same machine, so it was just going to happen. Just let him go, try and catch on the back of him, and drag me up to the rest of them again. But I knew I had to keep the gap to Joseph as much as small as I could, really.
We're keeping that gap as small as possible. Of course, another P8 finish on the cards overall, but a P4 in race number two. And after that, we were, of course, informed in the commentary booth that you had taken the championship by a single point. I had to ask, did you know going into the final race you'd done it, or were you still a bit uncertain?
I didn't want to know, but they said to me that I probably do want to know. So yes, I did know going into the third race, but that didn't change my approach to race three. Anything can happen, so it was a case of still score as much points as I can, so it's all said and done.
Oh, indeed, and what a race three it was, and we saw plenty of battling from yourself. But just before we come on to the actual race, reverse grid, of course, we were all hoping it would be the number 12 to really mix things up for the final race of the day, but we ended up drawing the complete opposite number of 6th. Did that make you think, okay, well, I'm going to be seeing Joseph Doble and Alan McCain have a showdown at the front and I get to miss it? Did you have any sort of reaction to that, or was it just sort of, okay, business as usual?
Yeah, thanks for that. Probably worst number to pick out because it put him quite a few places in front of me. I knew that I was never going to get anywhere near them, so it was a case of catching onto the back of someone and just trying to follow them through. To be honest, it's such a hard passing circuit because everyone's evenly matched and there's just no real advantage to overtake anywhere. So it was all said and done, but thankfully I could catch onto the back, and what happened happened.
Oh, most definitely. And as the racing went on, we saw, and we're seeing the pictures at the moment in the background of yourself really having to chase after Jamie Dory for the most part of the first half of the race. But as the leaders started to battle, plus the primes of McCain and Joseph Doble really started to get their teeth into battling for overall podium positions, you closed up and you started to seize on some opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I knew Jamie had his own fights to be getting on with, so I was trying not to get involved in that too much. Just pick my way through like normal and stay out of trouble.
And in the end, finishing once again at P8 overall, and what was second place in class this time around. So you've really seen the flavour of P8 today, but also P2 through to P4 in the Prime class, and having it all said and done come the final checker flag. And just take us through that feeling when you cross the line for the final time of this season. It must feel as though the biggest weight is off your shoulders.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it helped that Joseph didn't finish, to be honest, because it definitely scored me a lot more points with him not finishing. But if he had finished and I'd still finished eighth, I probably would have not celebrated as much as I did, because I like to see it on paper before I actually celebrate, really.
Or indeed, understandable. But of course, going from today's race into a champion crowned anew, reflecting on this whole season, it really has been from the start. You driving the pace. There were certain moments early on in the season where we saw those hiccups, those blips, but you're always the name at the top of the standings, given your consistency, whereas others may have been a bit faster. Has your championship campaign been one to celebrate, or has it been one that you've learned a lot from the start?
Definitely learnt a lot from it. I always say at the end of championship when I do it that I want to start them again straight away, because I forget what I've learnt through the season. I think it's definitely been a learning curve. I was dropped to Pro-Am, possibly by my own choice this year, maybe going up to Pro again next year, but it's going to be tough if I go up there, that's for sure. I'm definitely going to have to get some seat time.
Or indeed, and after a very tough rivalry, not just with Joseph Doble, but also Alan McCain and Reese Watt announcing themselves onto the stage. If we do see you in Pro in Season 3, it's definitely going to be thrilling to see. But with that, of course, and bringing the story to a good concluding chapter, Matthew, we do have to ask, of course, before we do let you go, will you be rejoining us for Season 3?
Oh, absolutely. Yep, I'll be there.
Oh, that's great to hear. And then, of course, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Just everyone at Team NXTGEN, really. Yourself and Jamie and Lee. They work their butts off behind the scenes to get everything done. So thanks to all the other Pro-Am drivers and pros. It shows how much respect there is for each drivers, considering there's not been any safety cars for the last 3-4 rounds. Gaz has not really had much to do driving wise, so it's good to see consistency in the ranks, really. So yeah, look forward to the next one.
Well, that's fantastic to hear, Matthew. And we do appreciate your thoughts and feedback and enjoying the series from start to finish. But once again, thank you for joining me in the interview, and congratulations on being our Pro-Am Drivers Champion for Season 2 of the NXTCC.
Brilliant, many thanks, Paul. Have a good one.
All the best.
Cheers.
So hearing there from Matthew Addy, a very happy Matthew Addy, and I think it's just gradually started to sink in the enormity of what he's been able to achieve this season. And his own words there saying that the start of the season in the Prime class had been dropped from consideration for the Pro class, perhaps of his own choice, but again, you could say they're fitting into the Prime class. And we saw him fly high out of the gates at Donington Park, but in Spain, it really did come to the fore how close his competition would be in the class, with Reese Watt picking up that triplet of wins, of course, at the Spanish Spanish national version of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, and then Daniel Holmer would go on to repeat the same in the next round, and it really was a case that all the prime drivers around Matthew Addy all coming in close. Joseph Doble, of course, with his charge through the field and his surge in pace in the second half of the season, and Alan McCain at Watkins Glen really putting a solid set of results and finding his way right into that fight at the end. He has been our champion. He went in tonight as the favourite, but there's no doubt about it. He has been pushed to the limit, and he'll be pushed to Pro Class in Season 3, and there he'll find even greater rivalries await him. And can he continue that form? Well, congratulations to the Next Gen Racing Yellow driver, and we look forward to seeing him come back in Season 3. But going from our Pro-Am champion to our next driver of the day, we'll be speaking very shortly to Adam Delmont, the iRacing driver, as we get ready for him to join us in the interview room. It has been a season to remember as well for him as runner-up in the Pro Class, and as we bring him in to the interview room very shortly, you can imagine he's got quite a tale or two to tell with regards to how his championship went from the beginning and how he was able to bring it all together come the end to be the runner-up behind Mikey Doble. But as he now joins us in the interview room, Adam, runner-up in the Pro Championship, that is not an accolade that goes lightly around here when you're in such a fierce competition. Of course, not able to take the championship to the wire versus Mikey Doble, but holding off the likes of reigning Season 1 champion Jamie Dorey, Will Redford, Gavin Gardner, Andrew Pike, Wayne Douglas. You must be absolutely chuffed. It must feel like a championship win in its own right.
Yeah, you know what, Mikey, we're out of the picture really wanted quite a fair bit ago. He's been pretty unstoppable. Had a mega start to his season and just continued on it. So I think the battle has always been from second back in it. So yeah, I'll discount Mikey out of it. He don't count. I'll take a win.
Well, not discounting our Pro champion too much, of course, given he's one of many of the drivers on the field, but focusing on your campaign today, it wasn't easy over the course of the campaign in becoming P2, but at the same time, it wasn't easy here, and from the start, a P9 in race 1 preceded by what was looking to be quite a challenging qualifying session.
Yeah, do you know what, Paul? I practiced yesterday, felt mega, had really good pace, and then just couldn't seem to get anything together. Didn't really get much toe in qualifying either. When I did, I made a mistake or I'd get an off track. So yeah, I struggled a little while. Race 1, I think it was just because it was so hard with the Civic being so slow up the hill and down the straight. You were just kind of cannon fodder, and it was making me overdrive a little bit, trying to compensate for how much speed we'd lost, and it really didn't do my tyres any good. So I kind of dropped off it, and it was just survival, really.
To be fair, you did very well to survive in the first race, finishing P9 after a starting position of P13. And carrying that forward into race number 2, looked like it was a bit difficult out there and being pushed backwards a little bit compared to where you started with that P11 finish.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and the weird thing is I felt a little, like I had a little bit more pace and felt like I actually had the pace through the corners. But because it's hard to overtake, especially with the slight speed disadvantage, you know, I'm taking chunks of time out through the corners under the brakes, and then the minute you get off that final turn, I was just watching I could have literally been 0.2 behind somebody, and I'd just watch them start pulling away from me down the straight, which left me open to attack every time down there. And once one car, you know, if there's a couple of cars nose to tail, and somebody gets you, you're just going to drop back. I think I lost 3 spots. I got up to quite a decent position after a good start, and then kind of got a little swamped, got stuck behind some cars, and I couldn't really push forward, and that left me vulnerable. And all of a sudden, next minute, I go from attacking to defending and losing out on a few spots.
Definitely did look as though it was a bit of a knife-edge balance in terms of, like you say, if you went from attacking to defending, the risk of losing at multiple places, and that happening a number of times. But race number 3, of course, had some time to reset, a reverse grid top 6 as well. Looked as though you were back in your element and fighting your way up to what was P2 in the end.
Yeah, definitely. I felt so much better in race 3. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Actually, it was just there was some some cool overtakes, there was some crazy close battling. I'm a little bit devastated that I tagged the back of Mikey. I hope he knows. I did go in to say sorry to him. I did say it in the race actually, but I did go to say it again. But he'd already gone off. But yeah, I came in with quite a lot of speed, just normal, and because them 3, I think near enough went 3 wide, practically into the corner, and I saw it happen. Mikey had to anchor up quite harshly to keep it tight on the apex to avoid the other 2. And I was already on my way into that apex, carrying a lot more speed, and I did knock it down at first and try and braked as hard as I could, and it was the softest of touches. If he hadn't, if the grass hadn't been there, I think he'd have been all right because he did recover. It was just the grass just pulled him off into the wall, which yeah, I never like to give somebody a shove or take somebody off, and normally we do have such good races, and I was looking forward to a battle with Mikey because I felt, like I say, very comfortable in that race and just push forward. And you might have seen some adverse defending, once I'd got because vulnerable down the straight, and I was having to brake so late into turn 1 to try and hold a position and move forward. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It were definitely a buzz.
Oh, indeed. It was unfortunate contact with Mikey, but I think once tempers calmed down a little bit, of course, after he out the car and cooling off, I think it'll be looked back as no intent behind it at all, just close racing all the way through, which is what we've come to love with the NXTCC, where it been Season 1 or Season 2. And we just see in the background at the moment, you're battling with Gavin Gardner and also having to hold off Daniel Holmer and really showing the lack of top-end speed in that Honda Civic, but the strength of the brakes. And just coming on to your wider championship campaign, of course, P2 in class come the end of it, and really in a strong place ahead of the likes of Will Redford and Gavin Gardner. It's been a tough season for yourself, but throughout it there's one thing that's remained consistent, and that is you've turned up at every round and you've always been able to drag results out the round, alternatively punch well above expectations and get onto the podium. Has that always been the goal in terms of just turn up and play the dice, or has it always been that thought in mind in terms of top 5s are on the cards?
You know what, mate? With any championship, I go in with the mindset that I want to be fighting at the front. Give me something to aim for, and if there is drivers in there that are quicker, it's great because you get to learn and improve and get faster each time you get behind them, and start of season you might see the gap going off quite quickly, but come a couple of races behind them, all of a sudden you start keeping with them and then carrying that momentum on. And yeah, it's just I push every time I'm out there, but it's just sometimes I've had mares and bad lucks hit, and sometimes bad decisions, and you've just gotta just keep ploughing on no matter what. You've just got to keep going, and once that race is done, it's done. Move on to the next one and just maximize every opportunity you can, really. And sometimes it leads to mistakes, sometimes it doesn't, and it pays off. But if we didn't do that, what would we be out there for?
Oh, 100%. I agree with you on that. And just a little curious question that we've been asked by some of our viewers tonight. We've seen you, of course, racing for Excite Racing over the course of this season, but running a next-gen racing livery on your Honda tonight. Is there something you're looking to tell everyone?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a sneaky early announcement that myself, I'm moving over into the next gen fold. There's plans, been talking to Jamie for a while, and I have done a season in MX5s and the touring cars with next gen before, so it's not like it's a brand new team to me, and I like where they're going and what they're doing, and they're expanding, and the potential that even some of my Excite, because it's sad to leave Excite because I've been with that team now since it was before Excite and it was Youth Energy, and all the lads in there are all friends more than teammates, to be fair. So I'll always still be around, and who knows, that some of them may join next gen, some may not, but either way, we're still all good mates. There'll be plenty of banter, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to just get out there, try something new, and you know, I'm doing the World Series in the MX5, and you know, I'll be doing that with Adam McNally, and we're both representing NXTGEN in that as well. So you know, we seem to be doing all right in that as well so far.
Well, we look forward to hearing how you get on in your endeavours with NXTGEN flying the banner, particularly in the World Series. But coming back to this series, of course, P2 in this championship, can we expect you to come back in Season 3 and contest for the win in the Pro class?
Yeah, most definitely. Whether or not I stick with the Civic, I'm still undecided yet. I think I need to do plenty of off-season testing. But I'm becoming to, yeah, it might not be the fastest, but I am becoming to love the Civic. It's such a unpredictable little animal.
Oh, indeed, and we have seen some unpredictability under the brakes with that rear end that slides about, but you've always been able to tame the Japanese beast, if you will. Well, just before we do let you go, Adam, is there anybody you would like to give a shout out to or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, just very quickly, you talk about taming it. That race too, when my rear toe link broke, do you know how many times I nearly binned it going down the straight, chasing Jamie?
Quite a bit, I can imagine.
But yeah, you guys obviously behind the scenes, admin, you for the broadcast, Mega as always, my teammates, XI, and moving forward, you know, NXTGEN. And yeah, I'm looking forward to being back, raring to go already.
Well, Adam, we do appreciate it. We appreciate you joining us in the interview room. As always, congratulations on your results today, and special congratulations to being the runner-up in the Pro Championship in the drivers' classes this season. And we look forward to seeing how you get on when you come back for Season 3 later this year.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you.
All the best. The hearing there from Adam Delmont, our pro driver for Excite Racing and runner-up in the pro class over the championship campaign, and definitely a very rational mind of Adam Delmont in terms of coming into each race equipped, and when the races don't go right, put them aside and get ready for the next one, and when they go right, make the most of it, but at the same time also learn from it. And well, there's going to be a bit of a question mark over where he does decide to stick with the Honda Civic Type R or whether he does switch away with it, but he's been coming to light the car, of course, quite a bit unpredictable, and we have seen some very scary and sketchy moments from Delmont under braking, but of course he's pushing it to the utmost, and that's what it's all about when you're trying to go faster and faster when you're chasing after the likes of championship winners such as Mikey Doble and Jamie Dory. But you can imagine that Adam Delmont with the NXTGEN racing team coming back for Season 3, he'll definitely be all fired up once again and looking to go one step further to the very top of the standings. But with that, ladies and gents, we now come on to our next interviewee of this evening, and it's none other than our series organiser, and that is Jamie Dory from NDA Honda Racing. Well, as we do get ready for him to join us in the interview room, I believe he may be a little bit preoccupied at the moment with also speaking to some of the organisers about the events of today, and also getting ready to talk about Season 3 with them in terms of unveiling the calendar there, and we'll unveil that a little bit later on. But we are just waiting for him to give us the potential thumbs up that he's good to go. But it'll be interesting to hear his thoughts on what has been a championship campaign that has been tough, but he's also delivered those results, no doubt about it. And at the same time as well, he's really had to push hard when it's mattered most in order to extract results out of the car, and it has not been his crown this season, but definitely it's still a season for him to remember. But as he does get ready to join us, and in fact we are just waiting on confirmation whether he will join us. Give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies for this. As we are just waiting for a little bit further confirmation, and I can see there Andrew Pike responding to Mikey Doble on the YouTube chat with regards to what happened in race number 3, and also say just drag Jamie and surprise him. Well, I think we may just have to do that, and in fact, as he joins us now, Jamie, hopefully you are available and haven't interrupted you at an important time in the whole organising committee, but at the same time, we wanted to catch your thoughts with NDA Honda Racing and what has been a championship crown that's got away from yourself after Season 1, but still a brilliant championship campaign from yourself. And what a way to wrap up today, battling hard in all 3 races with a P6 at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had high hopes going into the season when seeing 40 cars enter that I was going to retain my crown. Um, I think, the caliber of drivers this season stepped up massively. Tonight was frustrating for the Honda, just straight line speed. It felt like we were uh, massively slow round there. And then round the point where the Honda was strong is very hard to overtake. But yeah, all in all, yeah, it was a good night. Entertaining racing, close racing, and stressful racing.
Well, indeed. Breaking up, of course, the troubles of the Honda and those struggles, if you will, really showing themselves in qualifying. We saw a lot of the Honda drivers running around in packs together, trying to get the toe off one another, yourself included with a number of drivers. Did qualifying go to plan in terms of the time you were looking for?
No, to be honest, I won't complain with a top 10, but realistically, well, obviously my championship was done. Championship defense was done end of last week, um, or the week before. So it was a case of trying to help teammates and pull people around, more than anything. And then towards the end, I just thought, I managed to regroup with some people and go for a little bit of a time and see what I could do. And yeah, it put me in the top 8. I wasn't really. I knew I had a battle on my hands with some drivers of Gavan, Daniel Holmer, etc. Um, Unfortunately, like I say, the season came down to this with a very, very slow car, in my eyes anyway, for me.
Well, it may not have worked out in qualifying, but still acting as a team player, which I'm sure your colleagues at NDA Honda Racing will have appreciated, and translating that forward into race number 1. Of course, a P8 start, but a P11 finish in the end. But we did see quite a bit of door banging and also all-in battling between yourself and the drivers around you, including the likes of what were in the end Ian Manners in the Prime class, and also Adam Delmont, your good friend and Excite Racing rival.
Yeah, I mean, uh, race 1 was it was. I think that was down to my mistake coming in at the last corner. Um, I got Will on the grass and just pulled me wide. Delmont then got through, which obviously me and Delmont basically just enjoy battling. Um, uh, yeah, it's just good fun. We always take the mick out of each other. Um, it depends which one of us is in a good racy mood. To be honest, who's quicker? We're quite similarly paced. It was just a case of yeah, yeah. It's just fun with Delmont.
Well, indeed, we can see you enjoy yourselves out there, and that translated forward again into race number 2, starting P11 and finishing P10. Not making much progress, but still really having to fight hard for position every lap. And well, when you've got the likes around you, such as, for example, Adam Delmont, well, we talked about it only moments ago, and also Wayne Douglas, who had to pick his way back through the field after an early incident, it looks as though it's very hard out there even to maintain a place inside the top 10.
Absolutely, it's so hard, and the battles are mega. I mean, yeah, going on with Adam, we had a few comings together in race 2. Um, a little bit of smiles on my face because we've come together a few times, and I thought I'd rub him up the wrong way slightly this week, not to wreck his race, but just touring car style. I remember the before in the I don't forget. So I thought I'd pay him back. Obviously, Wayne, again, it's middle part of the track. The Honda was phenomenal. Um, Up the hill there, it was just if there was any Hyundai or an Audi within 4/10 of you coming out of that last corner, you were just kind of like, well, I might defend into turn 1, or I might just let him go through and try and get the run down into turn 4. But it's yeah, no, every position from P1 to last is always thought after in the touring cars. It's close battling, so yeah, it does what it was meant to do.
Oh, indeed. And then going on through into race number 3, of course, reverse grid draw, only the number 6, our smallest possible inverted grid. Were there any thoughts of yourself on that in terms of you hoping for it to be your number?
Yeah, I thought, I thought, oh, typical Alan gets pole. I was like, oh, a bit gutted, you know. Shame it's not rigged, really, because that would have been nice. And just pulling out a number 12 or something for a nice big reverse grid in the last race. Nah, it's one of those. It's the luck of the draw. Some days it works, some days it doesn't. You know, you got to take the luck with no luck. It's part of racing.
Well, indeed, but still, despite it not working out with the reverse grid, you got to enjoy plenty of battling and fought your way up to P6 in the end in a race 3 that I think all of us will remember for mostly the right reasons. You battling very closely with Daniel Holmer, and also behind you Matthew Addy as we look at the pictures right now, and it never seemed to end in that 9-car pack that was always 2 seconds or less separated from each other.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was a case of as soon as you tried battling anyone, you were just acceptable to the car behind if it was fairly close. And it's, you know, it's one of those. I think the driving standards have become amazing this season as the season's progressed. Everyone kind of knows how each other races now, and it just brings the pack closer and closer and closer. And you know that's what it's intended to do. As you expect in racing, incidents happen, but yeah, it's always good fun, isn't it? It's looking for the extra positions and battling with people who are fair and like-minded.
Well, indeed, 100%. That's what, of course, we're looking at to graft with the NXTCC as we continue our way through the seasons and reflecting on your season, of course. The championship defence, not successful, but still successful, making sure to retain a place inside the Pro Championship top 5, and also part of the team which took the championship crown with a round to go at NDA Honda Racing. It still must be a positive season to reflect on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, you have ups and downs, as I've mentioned. Sometimes the cookie crumbles your way. I've been involved in a few incidents this season. I've been quite unlucky with damages and things like that. It doesn't always go your way, but you know, looking forward, I mean, it's something to build on and try and take it back to Mikey. I know if it's right, like I say, with the cards you get of racing. I can battle Mikey. We've seen it in the past, and we've had good battles in pre-season. Just seems to be this season it just hasn't completely clicked. And yeah, I've just plodded around trying to get as good positions as I can. It's been frustration at times, but like I say, it's not always about winning. Sometimes it's the battling that makes it all the more worthwhile, which it really does.
Oh, indeed. And looking ahead to Season 3, of course, we'll be unveiling all the details later on in this broadcast right before the end. But can we expect you to be back out there in the Honda Civic Type R, or will you be changing your venerable machine?
Yeah, well, the reason I went into the Type R this season was to defend my championship in it. I was talking about this today with the rest of NDA. I'll be in something else. I've got 2 cars to choose from.
Any insight on what those could be, or you're keeping your cards close?
It's not going to be a Honda.
Very well played, sir. Well, with that in mind, and just before we do let you go, Jamie, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, obviously, first and foremost, everyone who's participated is, you know, it's why we do it. Going through obviously next gen with all the backing and everything there, and to get the drivers on board and the social element. Yourself for doing a quality stream as always, Paul. You know, you're my go-to. You got the likes of Lee who's been there. Yeah, it just everyone involved. Martin for doing all the race directing, Gaz for doing the safety car. It's, you know, it's taken a lot to get to this point and to try and make it run as slick and professional as possible. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, which we'll be doing for season 3, sorry. But it's yeah, everyone who's involved, you know, yeah, it's all down to them really.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Jamie. I'm sure all the team at NextGen do appreciate your sentiment. But with that, thank you for joining me in the interview, as always. Congratulations on the top 5 finish in your championship campaign in the Pro class, and also being part of the winning NDA Honda Racing team. And we do look forward to seeing you back on the tarmac for Season 3 later this year.
Cheers, Paul. See you later, mate.
All the best. So hearing there from Jamie Dory, our Pro Season 1 champion, who has handed over his crown to Mikey Doble for Season 2. But an honest reflection there from the India Honda Racing driver in the fact that luck just did not go his way at multiple points in the season, and also just not everything clicking. And we do know, as he mentioned himself, in the fact that when he is on his day, he is able to run close to, if not match, Mikey Doble, and therefore it really has come down to those fine margins in terms of when it hasn't worked out, it has not worked out in the way that Jamie has asked for it to or wanted it to, you can imagine in his mind, and therefore the results have started to fall a little bit short. But still at the same time, to fight for a P5 or higher in the Pro Championship is no mean feat given how close the field has been and the quality of racing we've seen over the entirety of the season. And we're seeing that in the background right now in the long car run, all the way from P1 through to P9, if not longer, all the way through to the end of race number 3. And that goes to show you may be champion one season, but as soon as the field closes on up, it's a completely open game in terms of who's going to be the champion, at least in the top 5 of a given class when you go into the next season. And you'll be interested to see if Jamie can find that magic with a new choice of car in Season 3 and be right back up there at the very top of the standings. But now coming on to our final interviewee of today, we're going to be speaking to the Pro-Am driver of Liam Silkstone from Excite Racing. And what a very different run of form for the Excite Racing driver today. Not quite working out in race number 1, but a happier race number 2 and a much more positive race number 3 to go with it. And as we do just ask him to join us in the interview room, and he'll be coming very shortly. Give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be interesting to hear his thoughts from a midfield that was absolutely packed with battling action as well as the front of the field. And as he gets ready to join us there, he has just been given the heads up, and it's great to see so many of you still tuning on in for the interviews as always, and details about Season 3 very shortly on their way. We do have Mr. Silkstone join us in the interview room now. Liam, appreciate you waiting, giving you a 4th interview of 4 tonight when it's getting quite late, but still great to see you waiting on through. And at the same time, whilst race 1 didn't go your way, races 2 and 3 got to see you really mixing it up in amongst other drivers in the field in a mid-pack and a prime class that was absolutely relentless for battling.
Yes, I mean, I got lucky with race 1. We'd come round turn 1. Someone had just drifted out wide. I'd bounced off a wall, hit someone else. I should have braked, but I didn't. One of them hit at the moment. Apologised to the guy and just kept driving around. Got a feel for the car. But race 2 and 3, I was on fire. I'm like going to Delmont. Look at me, I'm overtaking people. Like, you meant to overtake in a race? I'm like, no, but it was a good one. So I was really impressed with myself and just kept it clean, which is, I'm glad I've been able to do it.
Oh, indeed. And just taking it all the way back to the very start for today in terms of qualifying, we heard a lot of drivers talking about in the build-up to tonight, really struggling with regards to their pace in qualifying and putting those laps together. What was qualifying to you? Did you find the pace you wanted, or was it more about, okay, it hasn't quite worked out, I've just got to find a middle ground?
For me, I would say I'm not as quick over one lap as many other drivers. So I'll go out, I'll get on back of a train of cars, do like a couple of laps. But I'd heard from a few drivers, as you were saying, last night when we did the practice, there was for some reason a bit more grip and there were people struggling in qualifying. But for me, it's literally, I'll do 5-10 minutes, just set a lap, get some at mid-pack and then go, right, you guys do what you need to do. I feel like I've hit my limit. I don't want to be over driving the car, just get comfortable and go from there. So I felt fine, but I wasn't as fast as I was.
Indeed, and well, of course we can see there in the YouTube chat Andrew Pike from the Sim Racing Collective saying qualifying is absolutely huge in this league, and that does play a big factor. And well, your race number 1 not working out quite well, as you mentioned, because of the incident. So if we skip forward to your second race of the day, coming from the back of the field, finishing up P16 and just inside the top 10 in the Pro-Am class in terms of finishing position, you really had to dig in deep, and some very difficult drivers to pass, such as the likes of Bernardo Colbe and also Elwin Sykes in the mix.
I did. I was so happy with some of my overtakes. I was like, there was Mikey, Lisa were in there. We were just keeping it quiet. Normally I'm chatting away and have a laugh with everyone. But I was literally concentrating, and I don't know corner names, but it's the second tight right. I'd gone out wide and got a cut back, and literally I was bragging about that for a good, like, end of race 3. I was still mentioning the one in race 2. So, but I got some cracking overtakes that I didn't think I was able to do. But I got comfortable with the brakes, got comfortable with the car, which is the first time all season. And I just thought, right, I'm going to have this.
Indeed, enjoying yourself a lot in race number 2 and setting yourself up to try and creep into the top 15 for race number 3. Just take us through your perspective going into race 3. Of course, the last race of the season, we've seen you battling and trying to get top 5s in the Prime class throughout the season. The last race on the calendar, you just got to give it your all, haven't you?
Yeah, I do, yeah. But there was a few pros that had been unlucky in race 2, so you knew they were going to come through as well. So it was more of just keep the cars in front. You could see there were people fighting. I think there was me and 2 other that were in front. So it was just like, if I can sit with them, they're flashing the lights, as you can probably see when it was dark. They're flashing the lights. I'm just sat there going, don't really bother me. You just keep doing what you need to do. So I knew Nick Clibbons was catching up, but not as quick as I thought he was going to. So I was just literally keep it safe. I've not finished all 3 races all season. I've only done half a season, so because I've had a bit of I moved out and had a bit of a back problem. So I was like, just want to make sure I can finish all 3 races, enjoy myself, and I have, and that was the main thing.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant to hear the enjoyment you had, and of course with the challenges going into the season, enjoying midway through, really having to settle in and find your pace. Now of course, reflecting on this season and that last result in class being what was a P7 in class, it's not been a full championship for yourself, but also mixing it up amongst your peers. Do you think your final position in the championship, being slightly outside the top 10 but battling for the top 15, is where you expected to be, all things considered?
I will be honest, I thought we were going to be lower down. So, because as you say, it's people have learnt the car, they've learnt how the brake biases work, they can get in the car. It's like, I wouldn't say every track's the same, but you get it somewhere in the ballpark and you can change little bits here and there. Every week I'm coming in going, what am I doing? Which car are you in? Hyundai. Oh, we don't drive that. All right, okay. So I'm having to learn how to twiddle the car when I got it a bit comfortable last week. So I've took what I've learnt from last week into this week. And if I'd have done a full season, I could probably be a bit higher, but I'll just see what we can do next season.
Well, speaking of next season, Season 3 will be unveiled a little bit later today. But firstly, are we expecting you back on the grid? And if so, will you be flying high in the Elantra once again?
I want to drive the Elantra. I love the Elantra. It's a beauty of a car. I just don't know why I've fallen in love with it. Like, it was like one of the second ones that come out. I love the Audi when it came out, but then the Elantra came out and I fell in love with that. And my team all wanted to drive the Honda, and I'm like, I'm not driving that. I've been driving the Hyundai around Nürburgring. I'm staying with this. So I wanted to feel comfortable. I didn't want to be jumping from car to car. So yeah, I'll be back. I'll be in the Hyundai, and hopefully we'll see if I can get a podium or at least something for next season.
Well, we definitely do look forward to that and seeing you take to the tarmac in Season 3. But just before we do let you go, Liam, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
I'd say you guys, because I did do the first 2 races of the season, and with me moving out, I couldn't jump in the race because my rig wasn't set up. So I've been a joy to watch you guys all the way through the season, Jamie and all the NXTGEN admins for setting everything up and just making us feel welcome. Because as you say, I've just jumped in new this season, so I'm glad everyone's welcomed me in. And Excite and McNally, who you might have met, would have a full list of names who we've got to thank, but that's his job, not mine.
I do love it. Passing on the job to your colleagues at Excite Racing, but I'm very grateful for your kind words. Indeed, all the NXTGEN racing team will be as well. But with that, Liam, congratulations on your results, not just today, but over the course of this season. We can't wait for you to join us in Season 3 later on over the course of 2023. But until then, congratulations once again, and we wish you all the best as always.
Cool. Thank you.
Take care. So hearing there from Liam Silkstone, our Excite Racing Prime driver who finished 25th to begin with today after that difficult incident saw things go the wrong way with regards to his final finishing position, but never gave up, dug in, and with it started to push back, making his way up into P16 in race number 2 and a P13 finish in race number 3, and that's what it's all about then. You can hear his jolly mood with regards to enjoying the race and enjoying the Hyundai Elantra N and bringing it all together, and well, I think he will definitely be a force to contend with if he's able to make the full scale of Season 3, for the simple reason he may not be the fastest man out the blocks by default, but I think there's definitely a lot of top 5 performances in the helm of Liam Silkstone, and he just needs the time to bring those out, and he will be one to watch in Season 3. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our post-round interviews for today. And you heard there from the 4 drivers, starting with your Pro-Am champion for Season 2 of Matthew Addy in the Next Gen Racing Yellow 57 Veloster. You then heard from the Pro driver from Excite Racing of Adam Delmont in the 77 Honda Civic Type R. And second place, the runner-up in the Pro Championship and also overall, unless I am mistaken. We've actually had just confirmation that he was second place overall as well. And then we heard from Jamie Dory, our reigning champion in the Pro class, but having to hand over to Mikey Doble, of course, the NDA Honda Racing driver in the end, not quite able to defend his title. And then lastly, we heard from the Prime driver from Excite Racing of Liam Silkstone there in the number 194 Elantra, and what has been a partial championship campaign, not able to make the full season, but enjoying it all the same. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you enjoyed the championship from start to finish and want to know more about the Next Gen Racing community, why not check out our official website? That is at nextgenracing.co.uk. Alternatively, you can go to our official Facebook group where all the latest information and updates on the latest seasons and broadcasts is as well, and also you can hear a little bit more about what we're up to in terms of actually competing in other sim racing series and the other things we do outside of sim racing in real world motorsport. And our Facebook page, of course, is facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. But of course, next time, well, we don't have another round this season because the curtain is coming on down, but we will be back for Season 3 by popular demand. This series continues to grow from season to season, and it will all kick off again. Save the date, ladies and gentlemen. It will be on Tuesday, the 18th of April, 2023. I can happily announce that I'll be back in the commentary booth for Season 3, bringing you all of the rounds. But, well, let's tell you a little bit more about Season 3, of course. And, well, we do have a full breakdown here with regards to the fact we will be going from what will be an 8-round championship calendar back to a 10-round championship calendar around a variety of iconic tracks across the globe. And you'll see that calendar very shortly. And you're going to be seeing the return, of course, of what will be all 4 touring car racing class machines. So, ranging from the Honda Civic Type R through to the Hyundais of the Veloster and the Elantra and the Audi RS3. We'll also be seeing the same point structure with 3 races a night. It's a 30-race season. The race 3 grid will continue to be partially reversed, and that'll be done via the live draw in the commentary booth, as that's proven ever popular over the course of the season so far. We'll see the return of the Pro and Prime classes, plus the standard drivers and teams championships. We'll see success ballers, and you can see there that if you're tuning in right now and thinking about how much does it cost to sign up, well, it's £10 per driver, but if you are in a team, the more the merrier. If you do subscribe to the series as a team of 3, you'll be getting a discount as a result of that, or even as a team of 2, you'll be getting a partial discount. But we kick it all underway on Tuesday, the 18th of April. And as for the calendar, well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. The 10 venues will be as follows. From left to right, well, in fact, from the left-hand side going downwards the first 5 rounds, and then the right-hand side from round 6 to 7. Round number 1 will be at the International Layout of Silverstone, a very unique layout in that, not the full layout, if you will, but indeed the latter half of the Grand Prix circuit, and that'll be a tricky one to open the season up on the 18th of April. And then round number 2, we'll be making our way to Italy for the Imola Moto GP layout, which is the Grand Prix layout, albeit with an additional chicane thrown into the mix right before the start-finish line on the 25th of April, which will add an even bigger technical change to an already highly technical circuit. Then round number 3, it's the return of it always Canadian Thruxton as we make our way over to the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park or Arena for the 2nd of May, the fastest circuit on our calendar by far. And then we'll be heading to Long Beach in California, USA on the 9th of May for the street circuit. And there is definitely going to be tight. It's going to be close. And with the walls looming ever large, our drivers, the risk versus reward could not be greater. And then round number 5 to wrap up the first half of the season. On the 16th of May, it will be the Nürburgring Sprint Strecker Circuit with the Grand Prix layout, albeit the sprint layout of that. And then after having a week's break, we'll return on round number 6 in the United Kingdom at the Alton Park International Circuit, but without the Hislop chicane, which means the back straight will be extended and incredibly fast in the run into the latter half of the lap of the 30th of May. And then we'll be making our way back to the United States, so the Circuit of Americas in Texas, I should say, getting my shopping and states mixed up, but we'll be in Texas, the West Layout of the circuit on the 6th of June, and then we'll be making our way to Australia for the Sandown Home of Horsepower circuit. And when you may be raising an eyebrow right now and going, wait, they're going to be racing at Sandown? Yes, we will be, and I can tell you right now, with its straights, its very fast-flowing sequence of corners as well, you are going to see touring car racing like no other there, if you're not going to already be seeing fantastic touring car racing over the first, 7 rounds of the season. And then the penultimate round, we'll be making our way back to the United States of America for the Sonoma Point Raceway circuit in California. We ran the 2012 through to 2018 layout with all its flying corners and extended straights on the 20th of June, and then we'll bring it all to a close back in Germany at the Hockenheim Ring National A layout to bring the curtain down on Season 3 on the 27th of June at 2023. It is going to be a rampacked schedule. It is going to be across the globe, and it's going to be the one thing you love most and foremost, and that is classic touring car racing. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it has been our pleasure to bring you Season 2 of the NXTCC. Sign-ups for Season 3 are already open, and remember that date of the Tuesday, the 18th of April 2023. But I now have to do the sad thing where I have to say it is the conclusion of Season 2. It has been a pleasure bringing this to you from start to finish. Congratulations to our champions, and congratulations to all of our drivers who have taken part from start to finish of the season. And well, we will see you in 3 months' time to get underway once again. Until then, we have been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Brit the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, as always, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.